early game
Hey, do you guys let me know if this ever airs?
on 107.5 The Game.
Well, this is more normal. Was able to get out of the neighborhood this morning. Was able to deal correctly with doing a radio show as we are all back in studio. All right, it's officially 2022 now. We can officially get going after yesterday's wild kind of weather day that resulted in Patrick being in Nashville, myself being in my car in the driveway. Jen being the tough one of the group was able to get all the way here and get things going. We welcome you in the early game on a Tuesday morning, January 4th, 6:04 to be precise, as now I believe most kids will be going back to school today. No weather delays. So everybody gets back into regular 2022 rhythm. And Patrick, plenty of things for us to get into today. One area that I want to go down a path of today with you is this college football playoff. Yesterday was kind of wild. It was kind of crazy. I had a hard time at times getting to all of the text messages that we got on the text line, but one of them came in yesterday early on, I think before I was able to get out of the car, and so we never really were able to address it. But I remember it coming from Harry, and Harry is not a fan. He says finally putting the playoff expansion to rest. And I'll get back into this text message in a little while, but I want to get into that with you a little bit today in regards to playoff expansion because I'm still kind of in favor of it. And I'll explain why. I'll go down that path of why I think playoff expansion is still a really good idea and definitely probably something that college football is going to have to do in order to make the postseason continue to be relevant with what we're already starting to see. So we'll get into that a good bit today. If you want to weigh in this morning and you didn't get a chance to yesterday, maybe you are still taking one more day off, you can join us this morning, talk a little bit about your opinion of the South Carolina and North Carolina Duke's Mayo Bowl. The Gamecocks a 38-21 victory, 803-404-6100. That's how you can join us on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line or on the Love Chevy phone lines. You can always follow the show along, as plenty of people do. DC, LeVar, Decor, already up this morning on the Buford Lending live stream. Decor wishing everyone a great day out there, so you can come and join in on the live stream as well. But Patrick, let's start with kind of the college football news of the night. Caleb Williams jumps in the transfer portal, and as soon as he jumps in, Oklahoma picks up Dylan Gabriel, who had been committed to UCLA, the former Central Florida UCF quarterback who entered the transfer portal. So Caleb Williams jumps into the transfer portal last night, does kind of make it known that he's considering going back to Oklahoma, but is now basically a recruitable athlete again, essentially a free agent, if you will. This is where the transfer portal is at. This was kind of the big news of yesterday and last night. A lot of rumors that Georgia could end up being the destination. I think you followed his recruitment closer than I did.
His final three was Maryland, LSU, and Oklahoma.
Okay, and Georgia, I know Georgia was a big part of it early.
Part of it, I guess.
Yeah. But some rumors that Georgia was a big part of it, or a big part of maybe what he's looking at. Southern Cal, obviously, because of Lincoln Riley, was also mentioned prominently yesterday. But first off, big picture, how do you view this from a college football standpoint before we narrow it down to Oklahoma, Brent Venables, and just Caleb Williams?
Well, I do think it's a little concerning for the future of college football, just because you kind of read his statement, and it's very clear. He says, I want to negotiate. I want everyone to bring me their best offer. The only way for me to negotiate with other schools is by putting my name in the portal. So now everyone can come to me, and they can tell me why, one, they can get me to the NFL the best and fastest and have me most ready to be an NFL quarterback. And number two, they can offer me the most money for my last 2 years in college, which for him personally, I mean, sure, professionally, it makes a lot of sense. You have a pretty clear 2 more years in college, and then he's going to be out. When you come in and take a job away from a Spencer Rattler who was expected to be the number 1 pick going into last season, and you're the number 1 quarterback in the country coming in, and you have all the tools and you light it up like you did as a freshman, you're not expecting to be a 4-year college athlete. The countdown is on. Now, after next year, he'll probably be working on the insurance claims and things like that with Lloyd's of London, and he's getting ready for the NFL. So it makes sense, but big picture, I think what it represents is not necessarily great. Like, a player like Caleb Williams is going to the NFL no matter what. He can be at Oklahoma, he could be at South Carolina, he could be at Wofford, he could be anywhere. I mean, Josh Allen got drafted number 5 overall, I think, from Wyoming. When you have that kind of talent, you're going to get drafted. You're going to get drafted high. So I don't know why he would need to leave Oklahoma, but I get him opening up his options. There's a new coaching staff. You want to see what everybody brings to the table. It just, I mean, Kirk Herbstreit caught heat for these guys don't love football comment. I think it's more like guys don't necessarily care that much about just college football. They don't care about college football. I mean, they care about being a professional football player, but it is a little bit of a bummer knowing that anybody can do this. You can have one big season, then say, all right, well, my name's on NFL radars. Let's see who's going to develop me the best for the next 2 years. Like, any receiver can say, hey, I had a big freshman year, but I want to go have Brian Hartline coach me for the last 2 years so he can get me ready to be an NFL player, and I can come in and I can have 1,500 yards like Jamar Chase did, or like Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave are expected to do next year and be a first-round pick. So, yeah, it's a shame that there's not – like in the NFL, this happens too, where you become a free agent and then you see who's going to offer you the most money, and that's it. Rarely is there the loyalty of this team drafted me. I want to stay with them. I'm going to sign a team-friendly deal, and I'm going to try and be X player for life. Once you commit to college and you've given 1 year to Oklahoma and everything seems to be going really well and the number one quarterback in the country leaves because you're there, and still you want to open up your options. Like they went full in on Caleb Williams. He was going to be the guy, and it's just a bit of a bummer.
It'll be interesting. I think there's 2 parts to this. You look at it and you go, man, this is the new era of college football, and say this is going to happen more frequently. I guess one question I didn't get answered last night is if he doesn't transfer, because if he goes back to Oklahoma, can he do this again next year and still have his free transfer for his junior year, for his final year? Nobody seemed to have an answer for that. It's kind of like the NBA. I was comparing it to the NBA draft last night as I was talking to people, how kids can continuously put their name in the NBA draft, but once you go to the NBA draft, that's it. Like, if he goes back to Oklahoma, let's say he doesn't get the offer or doesn't like his other options or whatever, can he go back into the transfer portal next year because he technically didn't transfer? I think that's one thing that's going to have to be worked out. There were several people who didn't seem to have an exact answer on, no, once you enter the transfer portal, that's your one free transfer, as opposed to, okay, no, he actually left.
Yeah.
We'll see how that kind of plays out. But I think there's a lot of people who've been screaming in favor of Caleb Williams that I feel like were turning their opinion last night. People have been saying, well, if your coach leaves and he can leave without punishment, why can't the player? You know, Lincoln Riley doesn't have to sit out 1 year coaching. Why does the player, if the player doesn't like his situation, if he wants to be closer to home, if he doesn't like his new coach, if he doesn't like the offensive system, if he doesn't like something about his school or his teammates, why can the coach leave?
Why'd he wait? That's my question. Why'd he wait so long?
That's a good question.
Because he went on an Oklahoma podcast and kind of doubled down, like, hey, I'm an Oklahoma, I'm here, I'm a Sooner. Like,
it's a good question, and one that, again, now there's a again, I think we're taking, as we open the Tuesday morning show, I'm looking big picture right now at what this means for college football and the transfer portal and how you just take it across college football as a whole, because there is a wide receiver that is now in the transfer portal from West Virginia. I'll get his name in just a minute. I just had it in front of me, but he was the top wide receiver for West Virginia this past season. And you'd go, well, why transfer? The Mountaineers played in a bowl game. Neil Brown's running kind of a pretty good offense. Why would he elect to transfer? He's a kid from Savannah, Georgia, that is being considered now by South Carolina. And it's a guy that, after missing on Jacob Cowing last night, South Carolina would probably like to add. We'll see if South Carolina makes an offer to him. I'll get his name again. I apologize in just a second. I had it here in front of me and ended up losing it. But the bottom line is, we talk about it because of the big name. Winston Wright Jr. is who I'm referring to. 63 catches last year, 688 yards and 5 touchdowns to lead West Virginia in receptions and yards and tied for the team lead in touchdowns. But I bring him up because, Patrick, we're not going to talk about Winston Wright Jr. because he plays at West Virginia, and West Virginia is not Oklahoma right now, and Winston Wright Jr. is not Caleb Williams. But from a West Virginia standpoint, he's their top returning offensive producer. He's as good as any offensive player they've got coming back, and now he's decided to enter the transfer portal for maybe bigger and better options. Caleb Williams entering the transfer potentially for bigger and better options. But again, if your coach leaves and is able to go coach next year without penalty, why can't the player do it? So we'll continue to talk about that this morning. 803-404-6100, how you can join us on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Again, we'll also get into the college football playoff a little bit this morning and see kind of what you think about that. The college football playoff, I think, is very interesting now as we move through the final actual bowl game tonight, still scheduled to play. Heath Klein said yesterday, and I haven't verified this number, LSU is electing to play. They will play with 39 scholarship players, and they will play with 0 scholarship quarterbacks. Garrett Nussmeier not getting the request to play the game, or is not going to play, according to Heath Klein last night, is not going to play because he would burn his redshirt year playing in a meaningless bowl game. Another rule that I actually think does need to be changed. 803-404-6100. We do have a big morning for you here. Coming up at about 7:30, we'll catch up definitely with Perry Orth. We await word from Michael Scarnecchia if we make it a full roundtable discussion. And then Patrick and I, again, we'll cover more of that South Carolina and North Carolina game. We'll look back also at Big Ben Roethlisberger's final Monday Night Football game. Did you get a chance to watch much of that last night? They pull out the win 26-14.
Yeah. Well, that was a lock. There's no way they were losing that game. I mean, that's just one of those moments where you know for a fact that the Browns might be a better team. I don't know what the line was.
2.
But were the Browns favored?
Steelers were favored by 2. I think it might have gone to 2.5. But
you take the Steelers at any number when you know it's Big Ben's last game at Heinz Field. So, yeah, I mean, I saw the final moments. The Steelers dominated. TJ Watt's an absolute freak. 20-sack season for him. That Watt family's genes are ridiculous. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. How are you going to remember Ben Roethlisberger? I guess I'll remember him as he's the perfect Steeler, like just blue collar type of guy, big, strong, tough, played through injuries all the time. Came into a team that was absolutely stacked, did enough to not lose a Super Bowl, and then actually became a good quarterback throughout his career. And he'll be a Hall of Famer, but I'll never really remember him as the greatest or among the greatest of my generation. I don't think he's going to be in a different category from Manning, Brady, Brees, Rodgers, and then you can think about Big Ben in a tier below that. I think he's right there with Philip Rivers and Eli Manning and them, but definitely a great career. But I don't know. I just kind of remember him as like a little bit of a mongoloid who just made crazy decisions and chucked the ball up into pressure all the time.
We'll get into what the opinion of Ben Roethlisberger, what the image, the lasting image will always be.
We do agree he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, though, right?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I would assume so. I mean, he has the third, not that this is the statistic that puts him over the top, but he had the third most touchdown passes at one venue of anybody in their career. Tom Brady at Gillette Stadium, whatever we're calling, or whatever the Superdome was called during Drew Brees' time, is number 2, and Roethlisberger at Heinz Field was number 3 last night.
He was also the winningest quarterback in the Browns stadium up until last year.
Okay, there's that as well. So, yeah, we'll get into Roethlisberger. Again, if you want to weigh in on South Carolina, North Carolina, you missed your opportunity, don't be shy. Come on in and join. It's plenty of fun. 803-404-6100. And, again, you can always join us on the Buford Lending live stream. Trey, Carlton, Anthony, all hopping in this morning to weigh in. If you want to do so, you can do it as well by going to our YouTube page at 107, or go to youtube.com, search for 107.5 The Game. You can click and subscribe. We beg of you to do that as we make the push to 1,000 subscribers. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Live, local, and free. That's how we do sports. 107.5 The Game. Feel free to call and complain if you wish.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
Remember, we are free of charge, after all.
From the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. shepherdsglass.com. No accidents to report at this time. Man, such a better start than we had yesterday. And weather-wise, well, it's definitely much better than yesterday. It's just cooler. 49 for the high, overnight low of 34. And on Wednesday, looking for clouds and a high of 59. But right now, it's 35 at 107.5 The Game.
Sponsored by
Morning, everybody. Anthony, are you talking about the Carolina Hurricanes or South Carolina? The Hurricanes are pretty good. I think they're third in the division. They're behind the Caps. They're behind the Rangers. I think they'd make the playoffs though. If you're asking about South Carolina club hockey, I have no idea. South Carolina, yeah, I'm not sure. I never actually went to a South Carolina hockey game. I've never been to the Plex. Looks like they're on their mid-season break, and they'll play Embry-Riddle on January 14th. Yeah, I mean, I see they have the decent Twitter presence. Their gear's cool. I know they sell their jerseys. Brian Glenn's got some hanging up at the Village Idiot, and their games are pretty rowdy. Look like a good time.
Joining us in the third quarter. Please give him some kind of present. He needs it.
birthday. Hey, the floor is yours. Please give him some kind of present. He needs it.
Eli, I would like to present to you this Death Row chain for being so hip-hop and being so hip. That's yours, baby. When I see you, you got that. I'm put that around your neck. Happy 41st birthday, Eli.
Eli, we're up.
Now that we're back in the studio, this is going to be what happens every break. Bill just wanders off because he can't sit still. Nope. See, at least when he's at home, we both have to kind of be in the area because we never really know when the show is coming back on. But yeah.
Oh, the hockey team. Alan Gordon was our go-to hockey person. I'm not sure he still is. Or I'm not sure he's not affiliated with him anymore. Oh, yeah. That was the end of the Manning cast last night.
Yeah, did you see the chain Snoop gave Eli? It's a nice chain.
I didn't watch it last night.
Snoop gave Eli a Death Row chain. A Death Row Records chain for his 41st birthday.
(803-404-6100). That's how you can join us this morning if you'd like. John from Somerville weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. He says, as a Clemson fan, I was honestly surprised South Carolina dominated the boys from up north. Hopefully the Clemson-South Carolina game will be worth watching next year. 30-0 was a snoozer. More movement from Clemson yesterday. Patrick, Todd Bates, defensive line coach for the Tigers, had been elevated to assistant or associate head coach along with Dabo Swinney. Was a guy that Swinney really praised and said would fill a significant role as basically Swinney's right-hand man after the departure of Tony Elliott. Todd Bates yesterday up and leaving to go to Oklahoma to be co-defensive coordinator, at least last I saw.
That can't be right. Nobody leaves Clemson.
Well, a lot of them are leaving. There's an exodus happening right now from the Tigers. But, yeah, Todd Bates, another one. out the door, and we'll see if Dabo promotes from within or elects to go outside of the family this time for another hire.
Running out of, I mean, there's only so many people you can promote, right?
So many analysts that are on the staff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Todd Bates again for Clemson. So we'll see. We'll see. I think next year, again, from South Carolina's standpoint, obviously it's going to be very interesting to see Shane Beamer follow up on year 2. There's going to be a lot more expectations. Games like what happened with Tennessee will really not be accepted next year from Clemson's standpoint. You talk about Brandon Streeter, you talk about Wes Goodwin, Mickey Kahn, all these new guys in place now for the Tigers. There'll be a new defensive line coach, new offensive line coach. It's going to be a transition year for the Tigers. I know there's talent there. It's not a question of talent. But when you have a staff that had continuity and had the kind of the veteran appeal of the Tiger staff, you completely change it around. It's going to be, the schedule's not daunting for Clemson, I should say, next year, though. They should be able to roll the football out.
Do they have a big out-of-conference game?
Notre Dame will be there,
Okay.
not considered out of conference, but they don't. They with Notre Dame on the schedule, they don't have a massive Georgia, Texas A&M, LSU, whoever they've got else scheduled in the future. So no, they don't have that one because they play Notre Dame, and I want to say that's like going to be a November 5th game later in
Nailed
the
it.
season.
Yep. It is in Notre Dame. I mean, that's something. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their future schedules going ahead. They don't really have one of those they don't have one in 2023 either. When's that Oklahoma series? Is that in the 30s?
I want to say
2030s?
30 and 31.
So, yeah, in 2024, they'll play Georgia.
Yeah.
And then
So they've got, but that was the.
So how long, I mean, are we going to, obviously, next year we'll say this is the perfect chance for South Carolina to take advantage. We thought that this year because Clemson was reeling. Their quarterback play wasn't great. They were very injured, and they still destroyed South Carolina and shut them out. Next year, we're going to say new coaching staff. South Carolina's returning all these pieces. I mean, haven't mentioned yet, but South Carolina's getting all these guys back that I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know they had to announce that they were returning.
Well, I mean, I think Brad Johnson was more so yesterday. Yeah, you mentioned the Todd Bates news there for Clemson. South Carolina yesterday getting news that Zach Pickens and Brad Johnson will both be back. I thought Jabari Ellis was completely out of eligibility, like out, like had nothing left to.
He made the choice to not come back.
I'm not 100% sure.
I thought that was kind of just like a thanks for everything.
Okay,
I'm out of here. I assumed because I thought he was for sure out of eligibility too.
Again, new day and age. We've talked about the two new pieces, the college football playoff and the transfer portal. You throw in just the COVID year now. I'm confused on everybody's eligibility and where most people actually stand.
But there were a couple people that announced they're coming back. Josh Van apparently is coming back. So the only person that needed, I mean, Van and Pickens needed to announce they're coming back. Does everybody need to announce that they're coming back to school?
Yeah.
What was? I don't want to be mean. What were the other options? Are they announcing that they weren't transferring? Because there are a couple people that announced.
Brad Johnson was announcing that there was discussion that Brad Johnson may go elsewhere for his last year, or just Brad Johnson. I think he's not
going to the NFL.
Well, I think Brad Johnson. No, but you say that Adam Prentice last year had the option to come back for year 13 in college. Most people didn't think he would be in the NFL, and he
already has a degree in everything he's interested in. There's nothing left for him to study.
Brad Johnson also. I mean, Brad Johnson's been around for a while. Like he's been Brad Johnson. I think will be on year 6 next year, and some of these guys look. We look at them as football players. Going to school gets a little tiresome at some point. You're ready to just go. Yeah. You're ready to go make your effort for the NFL and start your life.
But my roommate asked me that yesterday too. He was like, all these people announcing, like Roderick put a thing out that he was coming back, and Brad Johnson, they were like, did he just put out a statement to announce that he's not transferring? I was like, yeah, I think so. I don't know. Or there's just, it's like a 3D chess where you announce that you're not going pro and coming back to school, and it just puts it in people's heads like, oh, wow.
Well, I mean, with social media being the way it is these days, part of it, Patrick, is I don't want to say it's orchestrated by Shane Beamer, orchestrated by any other coach out there, but when you win a bowl game and you have momentum, Dabo Swinney was kind of the king of this. I always said one of Will Muschamp's early mistakes, Dabo Swinney, South Carolina fans would hate this, but Dabo Swinney would brag about guys don't leave Clemson. He would, that was the thing. Hey, it's so special here. People don't leave. They want to be a part of this, and they don't want to go there. They want to go to the NFL. They want to do this. And at some point, as a South Carolina fan, you go, oh, that guy, he's full of it. But people on the outside go, man, apparently that's true. Apparently it's true. So with all that being said, I'll never forget Will Muschamp's first year. I think it was his first year. Sky Moore had elected to return, and Sky Moore could have gone to the NFL. Probably would have been a 6th or 7th round pick or something. And Muschamp kind of glossed over the announcement and didn't really. I thought that was something he could have said, hey, this guy wants to play for us and he's going to be an NFL draft pick. I mean, you can embellish it, right? Like that's kind of what coaches do. That's exactly what sales is in recruiting, is embellishing your program to convince the next high profile guy, hey, we're on the way to the top. You need to come play for us. And so to me, some of this, when you look across the country and you see kids doing this, some of it is, hey, people want to come play with us. We're on the way to the top, buddy. What was the Bitcoin thing? Was it Bitcoin or Dogecoin or whatever? To the moon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to the moon, because I saw that yesterday. I think it was PFF College Football saying that they would buy stock in Shane Beamer and a couple people saying to the moon. But, the bottom line is, you use that kind of as, look, South Carolina, the loss to Clemson is in the back of everybody's minds. Now, they're not, or I say back, like, it's not something that's being discussed. That was an awful way to end the season, to be shut out, to be beaten the way South Carolina was by Clemson. But you get Spencer Rattler, you get Austin Stogner, you get a pretty good recruiting class, you dominate your bowl game. Now you go, man, Roderick's coming back. He was a starter. Johnson's coming back. He was a starter. Zach Pickens is back. He's a starter.
Yeah,
Wow.
Don't get me wrong. I'm excited about it, but I was just surprised to see that announcement, because I was thinking, well, duh. Of course you're coming back, right? Don't you want to play as much football as you can? And I wasn't thinking that the NFL was an option for all of the people that were making announcements. So maybe it's just, is it just the NIL thing now and the free transfer where every year's a decision and everyone's going to be announcing that they're either coming back to school or transferring?
Well, but I also have to say, I think it's for South Carolina. It's, I think some of it, South Carolina fans have seen kids leave where you're just like, I don't, what are you doing? Emmanuel Cook and Kelsey Quarles come to mind for the Gamecocks.
Well, just the last couple of years. I mean, Jamias Williams didn't want to play offense, transfers down a level, starts playing offense. You lose. Jamie Robinson was like a big time contributor and decides to go to Florida State. And
but I also think you look at the NFL, guys that just were like, all right, that's it.
The NFL.
I've seen enough. I'm NFL ready. Let me get on out of here. And you see some that leave, and we're not sure if they're making the right decision, like a Captain Mutterlin or even a Mike Davis. And lo and behold, they have solid NFL career. I mean, when Jared Cook left, nobody was particularly thrilled with his career here when he left.
See, I think people would have maybe. I'm very, very glad Zach Pickens is coming back, because that's going to be huge, and he's going to have the potential to have a monster year, like a really monster year, and be a top 50 pick, a day one pick possibly. But I thought people were going to potentially be saying that if he announced that he was going pro, that maybe it was a little premature, because the analysis on him that I've seen, a lot of national people talked about him, that he would for sure have been a top maybe 100 pick. But if he can get a little bit better as a pass rusher, add a couple moves, and just refine himself a little bit, he has legit like freak show potential, and he can be a very high pick. I think he's going to be due for a really big year.
So yeah, I mean that's part of it. And having done it, having covered recruiting and understand some, not all. I don't want to lump all coaches together, all 130 college football FBS coaches, but yeah, some of it is a selling point. Some of it's a selling point to your fan base. Some of it is a selling point to other recruits out there. Look, we'd be naive to think that South Carolina, even though Spencer Rattler's probably only here 1 year, you hope he's only here 1 year, because that means it was a really good year, and now you can hand over the reins to somebody else. But I don't for a second not believe that South Carolina's not selling wide receivers in the 2023 class on, hey, Spencer Rattler wants to be here, even though he will likely never throw a pass to them unless it's some kind of like televised opportunity down at the practice facility down there.
QBU.
Yeah.
South Carolina's QB University.
So
we've been saying it for years.
803-404-6100. That's how you can join us this morning. We'll get into the college football playoff discussion, because I think it's interesting as we move forward now, when you see players opting out. But I see people like Harry yesterday on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, who's like, no, you can't expand. The games are bad. Well, Are the bowl games all that much better when you have guys opting out? We'll talk about that, as well as your thoughts on the South Carolina, North Carolina game, or anything else taking place. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
640.
That time of year when you need to get the house nice and clean. And if you haven't done it yet, well, it's time to call Zero Res, 803-262-4020. That's how you can get in touch with Zero Res of Columbia. You can also book online, zerorescolumbia.com. Get them out to your house so that you can get it nice and clean with the ZR Water technology. All the family's been around the house the last few weeks for Christmas, for New Year's, and quite frankly, it's time for me to get Zero Res out to my house. And right now, you can get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for only $119. And when you mention me, Bill Gunner at 1075 The Game, you can get a hallway cleaned for free. Again, you can call them 803-262-4020, or you can schedule online, zerorescolumbia.com. Again, 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119. And all you got to say is Bill Gunner at 1075 The Game. You can do that, right? Like, as much as you might dislike me, to get a free hallway cleaned, you can still say Bill Gunner at 1075 The Game. You can get that hallway cleaned for free. Again, zerorescolumbia.com, or you can give them a phone call to book online, 803-262-4020. Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Be a 4-way.
Hey, buddy, but don't forget your basketball shoes. I'm glad you're getting ready for school. Don't get left. Don't get left watching the live stream. Got back to basketball practice tonight for Austin. Okay, I'd like to take one. So we're going to be able to do 2 breaks in the 7 o'clock hour? Okay. Okay, all right. But so we're just doing 2 this hour then. Okay. 2 each hour. Oh, okay. Okay, good. Oh, then we are well on time. Look at me this morning. Nah, no clue. Never a clue. That's all right.
What?
Oh.
Oh.
What? Okay, well, that's fine. Just yeah, Steven, it's cold. It actually was not as cold. It was actually not as cold as I thought it might be. I think when I got in the car, it was like mid 30s. I think it was supposed to get down to 28 here last night, but yeah, I would imagine 18 degrees in Virginia.
It was frigid yesterday on the way up.
I agree. 2 weeks off will spoil. I was thinking this morning, I don't think I'd been back in studio in a while. Well, since last week. It's been several days out because I think, the Tuesday show from my house, and then Wednesday and Thursday I was in Charlotte, and then Friday was off. Yesterday, back at the house.
Already head back in.
The Game. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Download the TuneIn app so you can take 1075 The Game with you wherever you go. And now, back to the early game on 1075 The Game.
Eight 803-404-6100. That's how you can join us this morning. Coming up at about 7:30. Oh, it'll be a round table discussion. Patrick and I'll sit here quietly and just ask a few questions and offer opinions, but we'll have a whole nother hour. But at 7:30, Michael Scarnecchia and Perry Orth. Perry Orth and Michael Scarnecchia. I don't know. You got to put one in front of the other, but I don't even know who you would put there. in front of the other there. So Orth and Skarnecchia will break down the bowl season.
Alphabetize them.
Alphabetize.
That's probably the safest way. That way nobody has an ego
Is
issue.
it alphabetized by last name or first name?
Last name.
Skarnorthia.
Sounds good to me. All right. Yeah. So 803-404-6100, since Jen's decided to bring up alphabetizing things, I'll ask very quickly, how long is it okay to leave your Christmas tree in your house but not decorated? Like the decorations are off. It's just there, mainly because yesterday, over the weekend, I didn't want to put it outside. I'm not ready to drag it off, and I just don't want it sitting out in back behind my house or whatever, back behind the condo right now. How long is it okay to leave it up? Like, again, it's not lit. There's no ornaments on it. It's just there kind of taking up space. How long is it's, again, a real tree. It's a real tree, so it didn't go in the attic. How long is that okay for?
Why? You weren't ready to drag it outside?
Yeah, we got, because I'll
Isn't
have
it
to
less damage or like dirty or detrimental?
I have to put
outside?
it in the car. We don't have a
Why?
Because he's gonna take it
I don't have
somewhere.
a truck. Yeah, and
Are you not allowed to have fires?
no, not like that. No. My father, I can take it to him, or I can offer it to somebody who wants to come and pick it up. But no, to answer your question, no. That's
Dang.
the option. A fire was not an option. The other option is probably where I live, to do it in the dark. Although they might not complain if I do it during the day, but to
Throw it in the lake.
just sink it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
just sink it there and try and create a brim bed for fishing or something.
Yeah,
of
why would that
nature.
not be okay to do?
Not real sure. I'm sure the lake itself, the Lake Murray Natural, the Department of Resources, whatever it is. But I think they wouldn't mind. I don't think they're going to complain. I'm not sure if the people around up there. So I've just left the tree in the house. I was looking at it last night as I was watching some television and wondering how long I could get away with just leaving it right there. Also, still for a pine tree, it's offering a very nice smell to the house. Like, it is actually still kind of, that was another
Ours
reason.
got really, really dry. Like, I guess I should have used some more hot water, because I'm assuming there was still water in the container in the reservoir, but the tree just got really dry. So I'm guessing maybe sap got on the bottom and, wasn't allowing it to suck it up. So I was glad to get it out of the house, because it was like kindling.
Everything I'm
That's a
seeing,
good point on
it's
getting it.
suggested to throw your Christmas tree in the lake.
Really?
Yeah.
John?
I mean, this says the 11 ways to dispose of a Christmas tree. Number 1 is put it out with the trash. 2 is take it to a drop-off site. And number 3 is dump it into a lake.
Todd, John weighs in this morning. He says brim bed, which is kind of what I'm leaning toward. Newberry Chris says that I can leave it in the house as long as I feel like being lazy. Well, that means we may just redecorate it next year. Todd says cut it up, put it on the side of the road. They'll pick it up. And Rooster P, well-known Christmas tree historian, says put your tree in the lake and then he doesn't finish his text message because he's probably driving and that's dangerous. So
Yeah.
just a thought there as I crowdsource how lazy I feel like being. 803-404-6100, how you can join us this morning. Again, coming up in about 45 minutes, Perry Worth and Michael Skarnecchia, and we'll look back at that bowl game. Patrick, I did want to get into this because of a text message we got yesterday from Harry, and I kind of, yesterday wasn't the best day to get into the college football playoff, but with the last bowl game being played tonight, LSU and Kansas State, Harry sent us a text message on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line yesterday, and he said, can we finally put to rest expanding the playoffs anymore? More teams equal multiple bad repercussions, such as, he says, unworthy teams getting in, Notre Dame last year, Cincinnati this year, diminish the value of other bowl games, hence opt-outs. Never saw opt-outs when we had 2-team playoff system. Add more than 4 teams, and we will see 2, maybe 3 lost teams get in, and it diminishes the value of the regular season. And then he says the entire country knew Cincinnati didn't belong, and nobody's surprised Alabama held them to 6
But why
points.
does that make them unworthy?
Well, I think
that's your definition of that's Harry's definition of unworthy. They won every game that they played in. It sounds like they were worthy of playing in another game.
Here's the thing. I think the bowl system has evolved to the point you got to realize the bowls are no longer of value to players. The swag bags and the trips and everything, it's no longer
the big time players that are going to the NFL.
Right. Yes, good point. The people who are.
I bet Perry and Mike and Skarnecchia loved their bowl swag
definitely.
bags. Yeah.
But I mean, I think by when you see Ohio State players opting out of the Rose Bowl,
right?
Yeah,
that's a big time bowl game. And I think if you go, I think this is another reason why you do expand the playoffs. And look, I get it. you're probably going to get some questionable matchups. Although here's one point that I would make on the college football playoff. Do it correctly. If you're going to go to 12, and that seems to be where they're kind of leaning, going to 12, you give the top 4 seeds a bye, and you play 5 versus 12. I think we would all be in favor of meaningful college football, right?
Yeah.
Like meaningful college football games. There are going to be duds. And by and large, the college football playoff, the 4 teams, the 2 games that occur in the semifinals have typically been duds. We don't always get it is more often we get the games we saw this weekend than we get Oklahoma, Georgia Rose Bowl from 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something of that nature. You typically have just, for whatever reason, not received great semifinal games.
Yeah.
But I'm all for the more this occurs, multiple reasons, and I'll ask you first, but I'm all for expanding the playoff. I've always been an 8-team guy, but I'm now open to a 12-team playoff with the first 4 getting buys and then 5 through 12 playing, because I think it keeps players in the bowl system. I think it makes those games it makes them more important, which again makes it worth watching. Yeah, again, you're going to get some blowouts, but you can incorporate the bowls. I'd prefer the home field advantage, but incorporate the bowls if you'd like to do that and kind of move on from there.
Yeah, I disagree with almost every part of this text from yesterday. I mean, because the unworthy teams getting in, well, that, first of all, it's a completely subjective way of thinking. Like, worthy, a team that wins every one of their games, I think, is worthy to play in the semifinal. A team that people thought Michigan was going to win the game, so you can't say they were just unworthy of being there. Georgia was better. We believed they were better. I believed they were better. I believed they were a better team, but doesn't mean Michigan was unworthy of being there. And then add more than 4 teams, and we'll see 2 or 3 lost, maybe 3 lost teams getting in. Okay, so what? And then the next point is it diminishes the value of the regular season. It can make the regular season more valuable for a lot of teams, because when Ohio State loses to Oregon early on, doesn't feel like their season's lost now. And it wasn't this year. Luckily, they got to claw their way back, and they could have beaten Michigan and probably gone to the playoff. But it makes more teams have more to play for deeper into the season. So I think it only increases the value. It sucks for a team that thinks, or like a Clemson. Clemson knew they weren't going to the playoffs in 5 weeks into the season, something like that. I mean, they had their 1 loss. I don't know when they picked up their 2nd loss, but at that point, it's over. Your season's over. So there's just more to play for longer, and you want guys to opt in because they want to play for championships. That's the only thing. It's like the whole tanking society now, too, is like, if you're not competing for a championship, you should be as bad as possible so you can get the best pick and then get closer to competing for a championship. If you're not competing for a championship, what's the point? And that's kind of the mindset college football is taking on, where it's, if we're not playing for the college football national championship, why do I care about the Duke's Mayo Bowl? Why do I care about the New Era Pinstripe Bowl? It's not a championship. It doesn't matter. So that's kind of the mindset now of fans and players. So just let more people compete for a championship. That's fine. How many unworthy teams are in March Madness? By that definition, 40?
And hello, 2022. And you say this, I realize some teams are realistic and say, let's start 16 seed. Hey, we probably can't beat the 1 seed, but this will be a fun experience. But with the college football playoff, if you expand to 12, there are teams that believe, if we get hot, we can run through and win this particular championship. And I'm with you on that. That's a good point also, because some of this is off of what Kirk Herbstreit had to say on Saturday morning, which I don't necessarily agree with everything he had to say in his rant about players' love for the game of football these days. But Patrick, I think you're right. You're going Joey. Was it Joey or Nick? Which Bosa got injured and basically just decided to opt on
TCU and opted out like 8
games. Yeah, and I mean he was out for 4 or 5 or 6. He was out, but then basically said, you know what, I'm done. Yeah, you could see an era of college football where, as you said, if you keep it at 4 teams, teams lose games early, and then that player just says, all right, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start preparing for the NFL draft. It's hard to say that you can't definitively say that's not going to happen, that you're going to continue to see top 60 picks play out their season if they're eliminated from the college football playoff. Because, again, the main goal, as much as we want to talk about student athlete and much as we want to talk about loyalty to your school and playing for your teammates and the brotherhood and whatever, the main goal of 95% of these kids is to get to the NFL and to go. And that's why you're playing football at the college level and running the risk of injury is something that I think more and more kids will start to look around. You're already seeing the Pandora's box being cracked with opt-outs in bowl games. It's only a matter of time before it starts to move back into the regular season when teams are eliminated.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are still competitors. It's just they don't care about the competition of something that's meaningless to them. So not everybody cares. You can't make a kid care about the Duke's Mayo Bowl. He didn't grow up wanting to win a Duke's Mayo Bowl, but kids do grow up watching the national championship and saying, I would love to win a national championship. I want to be the best team in the sport. That's the only thing that can get them revved up enough to want to risk their bodies for an extra game. So I can only see it as a positive if you're trying to combat the opt-outs.
The other thing I just can't understand is if you don't want the college football expansion, then it just tells me you don't like quality football. It's that or you hate the bowl system, like because you there's no way you'd rather watch just a meaningless January 4th LSU Kansas State bowl game as opposed to something that matters where if a winner advances. We'll continue talking about it. Kind of interesting. 803-404-6100. It's the early game. 175 the game.
Gamecocks, Braves.
The NFL with live local radio. 107.5 The Game. WNKT-FM, Eastover, Columbia. A cumulus media station.
Because I have no power at the house. Because I have no power at the house. And a tree
After Hamilton,
And I knew today was going to be a tough day because
with a $10,000 medical school scholarship. Upper Science.
I woke up at 4:30 local time yesterday in Nashville.
Sorry about that. Yep.
Drove 7 hours and then worked overnight. So I knew I was going to be struggling this morning.
Oh, wow. Had to win the game?
I didn't realize that the mic on the live stream was on.
How did you end up leaving?
Production. Sorry about that.
Well, the show was at 5 a.m. Nashville time. So I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, left at about 9 o'clock. So 10 o'clock here, got home between 4 and 5, and then worked overnight.
Our resident Alabama fan is showing he's hard of hearing this morning. He says 95% of college football players don't go to the NFL. Not sure where you got that stat. That's what I said. 95%, that's the goal, not 95%. Jen is working hard in there. Yep, Jen is working hard. Bye, Austin. Bye, buddy. You're still on. Yeah, apparently it was Jen.
It's all me,
narrowed down.
man.
Might have been Jen in the background.
I'm actually working, unlike the other guys, and they can't hear me slam them now, so that works.
How much
Thank you,
work you
Kelly.
doing while the boys are talking? Yeah, old Jen just
Sure.
staying busy in there. Well, I guess then I need to sink the Christmas tree this weekend. Back to school. That's right. No more. What was it? What was no more e-learning there from yesterday?
driveway, in my car, with my box plugged in.
Oh, Jen's playing the audio from yesterday. That's what she's playing. She's playing,
Yeah, Carlton, that's not what we were talking about, though. Bill said the goal of 95% of kids to play college football is to get to the NFL. Not that 95% of them will get to the NFL. Of course, that's not.
I had not charged. And in my car with my box plugged in because I have no power at the house and a tree is down at the house and a tree is down on Old Chapin Road. It's
1.6% of college players will get drafted.
I cannot get any
Draft. Yeah, what is it?
I cannot get any further.
Yeah. But even kids that are going to low-level FCS schools, that's still in their head. They're thinking, oh, what if I just go out and completely dominate? there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Give me a shot. Yeah.
Down, and I cannot get
So I
it.
felt about playing at one of the worst Division I schools in lacrosse. I was like, oh, what if I?
Well, that's why you see like Georgia be able to recruit 4 or 5-star quarterbacks because they're like, oh, I can go there and beat everybody else.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to the NFL. Like there's how it is.
But even the safety, the 0-star safety that's going to Coastal Carolina is thinking, well, I just ball out. I have 12 interceptions and I'm on the radar.
I didn't even say
All I need is a chance.
I didn't even say their goals to get drafted. It's their goals just to get the NFL. Somebody,
Yeah.
I'll get a free agent. DC, yeah. The problem we've got at the lake is or where I'm at, is that that grass. I need to figure out how to get rid of the grass. If anybody knows a DNR, I don't know if it's DNR or I don't know who would control the hydrilla that's now like around the little docks and everything without, because you can't legally spread stuff in the lake to kill the hydrilla. You're not supposed to. So I don't know if anybody knows, but apparently DNR will come out if you know somebody and they'll put the stuff down that'll kill that grass. Like they've already lowered the water and I'm hoping it'll kind of freeze it, but
The alternative I had is
people have
to get into
questions
my
on that.
my Tahoe,
That's
Chevy
what would be very
Chevrolet, Tyrone, and allow the Comrex to charge.
You ever heard about catching catfish in a
And so when
tire?
I plugged up the box,
No,
that we used, the Comrex that we used for
My
location,
dad was
once
told
I
that
have-
by
I
somebody
did
at
not charge.
when he was buying a tire from my car, getting my tire patch the other day because they just moved to the lake. The guy said, take a tire,
We'll
cut
do
a little
anything for
drain,
a
tiny
year
little hole on
around
one
here.
end,
Patrick, how are you doing
but
this morning?
a like rectangle out on the other end,
We are,
tied up on one end,
4 minutes in.
and
We
just, I
apologize
guess
for coming
the
on just a
darkness
few
or
minutes late
whatever it
here on
is, the
Monday
catfish will
morning,
go in there and you just pull it out.
And
After a couple days, and you'll
I
catch catfish
words
without
cannot
having to actually do
describe
anything and throw a tire in the
how
lake.
this thing will really get going if we try to start you off the right way.
I would have never in a million years thought about that. My dad
I've
said
never
it.
heard that.
Older guy at the junkyard
Explain
told him that.
again? You cut a rectangle on one end and a hole.
And the tiny little hole just so the water drains out. And you tie it up on the end that the rectangle's in. And once you pull it up, a fish will just get stuck at the bottom of it and you just yank it up and let it drain out. So you take the inside of it and you kind of zip tie it shut. There's no wheel at the center of it. You just zip tie the ends. Staple it, whatever you need to do to make sure that it's contained.
I guess. Yeah. Okay. An interesting way. I mean, we got good catfishing. I'd like to get that hydrilla. Again, I'm open to suggestions on the hydrilla. We got the Christmas tree. Not a bad idea, but the hydrilla would be the next step there. Getting that kind of cleaned up. As now I'll Google killing hydrilla.
Get the rematch, but the matchup we wanted. I don't think dominance by Alabama. All right, we get the two best teams for 60, 100. Again, as Patrick and I were talking a little bit about the college football playoff, you've got that going on, and quick favorite. That seems right. The over/under for Georgia.
I don't think I can just dump this stuff in the lake. That would seem to be pretty sure they frown upon that.
I guess the poster child for the other story of the weekend is that do sports in a fashion only fitting of the early game.
Aquatic weeds.
Tall, you don't need them toppling over on little ones. So, a lot of school
It
districts
seeks,
certainly
shatters, and eliminates invasive aquatic weeds. Well, Kelly, because the difference there is they get paid. I mean, all those players are getting paid.
Yeah, I mean, they get game checks. They get paid per game.
You opt out. If you Antonio Brown it out of a game,
We capped off 2021
you don't.
in a fashion 35-23, probably an extra 2 or 3 hours. We are free of charge.
The
Morning, RL.
It's time for the early game, where the bacon is always prepared properly.
My grand slam was supposed to be with sausage.
On 107.5, The Game.
$7:04 on your Tuesday morning. Bill Gunner, Patrick Perrett, Jen Jensen, all back in studio. Oh, a lot nicer to be here than it was yesterday at this time when I was still broadcasting from the Chevrolet Tahoe there in my driveway. Not that the Tahoe is a problem. It's just, I was staring into the dark. Couldn't even get the live stream to work. Couldn't enjoy our good friends on the live stream. Was just sitting there in the car doing a radio program because the power was out at the house. The tree was blocking my way to the studio. Today, we're all back, all enjoying each other's company, talking on the live stream about different items, including the playoffs versus you got expansion, the college football playoffs, expansion versus keeping it the same. And got to admit, I think most are in favor of expansion, Patrick. I think most are leaning toward expansion, but at this point, I see where some are coming from, and I'll admit, initially, I was not in favor of expansion. Probably a year or two ago, but as things have evolved, a couple of reasons. One is we've seen the same teams year in, year out. Two is we've seen now what is becoming the continued evolution of the bowl system and what it means to players. I'm now way more open to the idea of playoff expansion. Do I think that a 12 seed could ever in college football could it happen? Yes. Hypothetically, yes. I wouldn't say never on it. But do I think a 12 seed would have a great opportunity? I'd probably put
Still
a
looking great out on the highways.
I mean, I don't even know who the 12 seed would have been this year. I'll pull that up here. I'll go back in just a second and look. But no, I don't think anything like that is very logical. But what I do think is that it would make what is a fun time bowl season just a little bit more entertaining because I do think you're going to continue to see more and more opt-outs. And Todd, I apologize. You weren't listening to what I was saying. I didn't say 95% of the players go to the NFL. I said 95% of college football players believe they want to go to the NFL. That's what they believe that's why they're in there. It's not to win the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl. There's not as many players that are interested in going and winning the Gator Bowl or this past weekend was very good for Kentucky and made key catches down the stretch and is probably going to go to the NFL. Here, I would assume if he hasn't already announced it, then he probably will be announcing very soon. And look, the bottom line is he probably upped his stock a little bit with that game against Iowa in the Citrus Bowl on Saturday afternoon. So let's not lump all the players in there. Matt Corral elected to play this weekend. But Patrick, I'll ask this. Do you think people are going to look at Matt Corral now next year, 2 years from now, and people say, ooh, I don't want to be like that? Matt Corral, by the way, does not appear to have a significant injury. It doesn't appear that it's going to affect any kind of draft stock or anything with him. But do you think when in years to come, agents, friends of players, they're going to look at Kenny Pickett and they're going to look at Matt Corral and they're going to go, do you want to be like Kenny Pickett and, be able to be around your team and be on the headset or whatever, but avoid injury? Or do you want to be like Matt Corral and get have a high risk of significant injury that could hurt your draft stock and cost you $2, $3, $4, $5 million come late April?
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Smith is the cautionary tale for everyone that opts out of a game. He was going to be a top 10, 5 pick, just everything linebacker for Notre Dame, and had a brutal broken leg, ACL, LCL, everything tear, and it knocked him out of the first round, knocked him out of the second round, I think, and he was never really the same player. So, I mean, we've seen catastrophic injuries in bowl games for guys that were supposed to be playing their last game, getting a nice send-off, and then having a 10-year all-pro NFL career. So, yeah, Matt Corral will be the example for quarterbacks. That's a new twist to this, I guess, debacle that quarterbacks are opting out now. I mean, Kenny Pickett was the first to do it. And then Matt Corral was the yin to his yang and saying, no matter what, I'm going to war with my team. I'm finishing this thing out with them. And he ends up with a guy landing on him and finishing the game in crutches. So I'm glad that it's supposed to be just a high ankle sprain. It probably won't affect him at all. It won't hurt his stock. If anything, there's actually a chance that somebody's going to be between Sam Howell or Kenny Pickett and Matt Corral, and they're going to say, our evaluation's exactly the same, but you know what? This guy's tough. He's got moxie. I want to play. I want him leading my team. And they might actually prefer Matt Corral because of this. So I'm not going to say it's going to hurt his stock at all, but yeah, people will look at that going forward and say, not a national championship. I mean, it's a New Year's Six bowl, but whatever. I got the rest of my life, my professional career to deal with. And yeah, I think if you have an agent or people talking to you, they'll say, hey, remember that Ole Miss guy a couple years ago?
Yeah, Trey weighs in on the Buford Lending live stream. He says, yeah, but couldn't they get an injury in the first game of the season and affect their draft stock?
Of course.
Well, of course. Yeah, you could get injured at any point. But we would also to say that my argument to that would be, well, the first game of the season, you're playing for something. You're playing for the ability to go and win your conference championship or to stay in the college football playoff. We're not talking about college football playoff opt-outs. We're talking about bowl games that are now, basically your first spring game, essentially. I mean, that you get the 15, you get the practices. It's another rule change that I would like to see. LSU would definitely probably like to see it tonight. I don't know if bowl games should count toward eligibility anymore when it comes to red shirts. Like if you want to be able to play now, because here's the decision. You go, yeah, that'd be great. Let's be honest. How many coaches, these bowl games, they do still mean something to certain people. You like to send the seniors out for a victory, with a victory. It was neat. Jabari Ellis, you mentioned it, Patrick, is heading on to the NFL draft for what he's going to do. It's cool to see him be able to go off Parker White to win that bowl game on Thursday afternoon, and that's the way they finished their college career. So it still does mean something. But I look, somebody else texted in earlier and mentioned participation trophy. The last 30 years, we've gone from 18 bowl games to 42 this year. 42 scheduled bowl games. That's not how many occurred because of bowl games and night. There were 18. We did this last week. In 1991, there were 18 bowl games. In 2001, there were 25 bowl games. In 2011, there were 33 bowl games, and this year there were 42. In 30 years, we've gone from 18 bowl games where being in a bowl game really, truly meant something. 36 teams got into bowl games to today.
13 of 14 SEC teams got bowl games. It's a different world. But I'm actually a little surprised that we haven't seen more of what happened in the last year of the Will Muschamp era with J.C. Horn and all those guys opting out as soon as Will Muschamp got fired and just saying, all right, well, we're playing for nothing. Our coach is fired. We're not going to a bowl game. I'm just going to call it a season now. Like, why? I'm kind of surprised that more teams aren't losing in the middle of the season, or I guess I'm trying to think of the top picks this year, but like Kayvon Thibodeau, Aiden Hutchinson, they had something to play for towards the end of the year. But as soon as you're eliminated or you pick up your third loss or there's no shot you're going to the playoff, guys aren't just saying, all right, well, that's it for me. I'm going to just start getting ready for the draft because I came here to win a championship. We're not going to win a championship this year. So, oh, well. I'm surprised we haven't seen that every single year now.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, the evolution of college football as we move toward the final actual bowl game tonight, LSU and Kansas State, as well as the college football playoff that will take place, the championship game next Monday night, Georgia and Alabama. Just something to talk about. Again, the news from yesterday, Brad Johnson and Zach Pickens both announcing that they will return to South Carolina for their final seasons, or I guess Pickens technically because of the COVID year will actually even have another year to, if something were to go wrong, Pickens, but he will be back next year, as will Brad Johnson. And Brad Johnson's interesting. We'll talk a little bit about that just because switching positions this year, I thought it was, for a guy who was having to learn the linebacking position, it wasn't a particularly bad year for him. Certainly, I think was second on the team in tackles with 71. A year that he can grow and build off of, especially under the coaching of Clayton White. So certainly something good for South Carolina there. Yesterday, Clemson loses Todd Bates, defensive line coach, but they do get KJ Henry back. He announces he'll return. So just a couple players in the state of South Carolina making some announcements as well. We'll continue talking about that coming up in about 17 minutes. We'll catch up with Michael Scarnecchia and Perry Orth. We'll get their take on the final game of South Carolina's football season, what they see, and then also quarterback competitions. That'll be the name of the game moving forward with Braden Davis, Luke Doty, and Colton Gauthier all competing with Spencer Rattler. Maybe throw DeCarrion Joyner in that mix. Do you give Joyner an open shot at the quarterback position? Why not after what you just saw him do? Why would Joyner not want an open shot at the quarterback position, and then Tanner Bailey coming in during the summer? So a lot to get into as we roll through. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
College football playoffs are here.
Sometime, crew is up against it. The brakes are beating the boys. Tell them to get out there and give it all they've got. And win just one for the zipper.
College football playoffs are here on 107.5 The Game.
It is that fun time of the year, and maybe some of us would talk about just the evolution of bowl games and things that kind of don't matter quite as much. Maybe making a New Year's resolution doesn't matter quite as much as it used to. That seemed to be something very popular in the 80s and the 90s when I was growing up, or maybe that's just because that was a way for my parents to be able to talk to me or engage me on New Year's Eve. But having a New Year's resolution of feeling better in 2022, being able to get mobility back, not suffering from constant chronic pain or being weary of impact of limited mobility, that seems like a really good New Year's resolution to have. So you need to give QC Kinetics a call today. 803-281-6860. You can get the quality of life you deserve back today by getting a free consultation. 803-281-6860. If people have been telling you that surgery, that addictive pain medications are your only options, that's not true. Call QC Kinetics and their professional doctors today to see what can be done. If you've been suffering from inflammation with muscles, ligaments, or tissues, problems with your knees, hips, fingers, toes, or shoulders, muscles in the back, now's the time to call QC Kinetics. 803-281-6860. Allow your body to heal itself with regenerative medicine. That's right. That is how QC Kinetics will work with you. Most importantly, there'll be no downtime. You'll be going through the therapy. You'll be handling and eliminating the pain, all while having no downtime. Get a free consultation today. 803-281-6860. That's QC Kinetics. Morning, Andy. Hope you're doing well. Speaking of QC Kinetics, the way I cracked my fingers and everything, do some damage there. Ooh, Kansas State's up to a 7-point favorite tonight. Yeah, Wisconsin. I knew it. That's why I did not take Wisconsin last night. Iowa did beat Maryland. Lord, Keegan Murray had 35 last night.
Yeah, unfortunate situation.
Yep, Kelly, I agree. The game is definitely evolving. And I think that's why you got to look at the expansion of the college football playoff. You got to somehow find a way. Otherwise, the bowl season will just kind of wither up and die on a vine.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that there's a lot of kids that just don't really care about college football at all. They don't care about having like an alma mater that they have a connection to. They really just want to get to the league as soon as possible.
Hi.
The second and final break we never want to take it this summer is at 6.5.
Do you have Skarnecki as phone number? Because we'll have both of them on the line. Okay.
Yeah, I'm having stroopwafel, Trey. It's delicious.
So when do you want them?
We'll do this break. We'll probably hit this, get the game calculator, and then I'll get out.
Do the next break and then we'll take them.
Yep.
Perfect.
$803-404-6100. One bowl game tonight, LSU versus Kansas State. Yeah, Kansas State is 7-point favorite. LSU with a bunch of opt-outs. I'll probably have some of that on, but more importantly, Colonial Life Arena, number 9 Auburn, 12-1 in the season rolls in. They are a double-digit favorite according to Vegas Insider Patrick Caesar Sportsbook. Has Auburn as a 10-point favorite. Circa Sports has Auburn as an 11-point favorite, taking on Frank Martin in South Carolina. Auburn's been really, really good on the season. They just finished walloping 16th ranked LSU over the weekend, 70-55, and Bruce Pearl, what he's been able to do there, obviously very impressive. That was a game that Auburn jumped out early and was able to take full advantage of again a pretty solid LSU team. LSU, we all know Will Wade, and we know what's kind of occurred there, but that doesn't mean that LSU's a bad basketball team. They're very talented, and Auburn had no problem thumping them. LSU hosting Kentucky tonight at 7:00. The Tigers, a 1-point favorite right now over Kentucky. Again, that game in Baton Rouge. The SEC, Patrick, right now actually looking fairly strong in college basketball. You've got some really good teams. The SEC in particular highlighted Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee, LSU, all 4 teams that really, really stand out. And then Arkansas has been pretty strong here in the early going as well. The current AP top 25, again, Auburn, the top ranked team in the SEC, they're number 9 at 12-1. Alabama's another team I forgot about. They're 10-3 on the season. Kentucky, Alabama's 15. Kentucky, somehow the most recent poll was 17. They are right. They were one spot ahead of Tennessee at 18. LSU is at 21. And Arkansas has fallen out of the polls for the current time being. But certainly the SEC and Auburn tonight, it's a big challenge for Frank Martin. We'll see if they're able to do anything with a kind of high-powered Auburn basketball team.
Well, especially also with how many days off is this now? 7, almost 2 full weeks. I think
it's true. Didn't play the
13 days since the last time they've taken the court. So they've been playing basketball, all of them, sure, but there's a level of rust when you come in with a new opponent. It's been almost 2 full weeks since you've played a competitive basketball game. That's not going to necessarily be easy to get those guys ready. So it's going to be a test for Frank Martin. Going to have to be a feeling out process and see who's ready to go. And yeah, I mean, I hope they can just shake off the rust right away and get it going, because they've got this thing rolling there at Auburn. And yeah, this hopefully is where Frank Martin will come up big. I mean, South Carolina, we feel like usually plays up and down to their competition sometimes. So I think they'll be ready for the challenge, and they're better at home. So I don't know what the environment's going to be like. I don't know what the crowd's going to be like, but it's disappointing a lot of the times, the attendance at CLA. But normally when a top 10 team comes into town, they show out a little bit. I don't know what you're expecting.
Depending on where you look, there's a million NBA mock drafts. Jabari Smith will be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft without a doubt. He's definitely a top 5. Yeah. I've seen him projected as high as number 1 in some drafts over Paolo Banchero, the Duke power forward who I love, and you got Chet Holmgren who's up there as well, the freshman at Gonzaga, the 7-footer. But Jabari Smith comes in tonight, averaging just over 16 points a game. The Tigers as a whole are top 40 nationally in scoring, averaging 80 points per game. They only give up 64 points per game. So we had a texter ask, why is South Carolina a 10-point underdog tonight? Most of it is because Auburn's really good at basketball and features one of the top 4 or 5 players, if not the top player in college basketball this season in Jabari Smith.
Should hopefully make people want to go out there, right? Though, I mean, that, at least for me, if I was on the fence of going to a game tonight,
yeah,
top 10 team, potential number 1 pick in the draft, you want to be able to say, yeah, I saw that kid play live in person. 6'10" guys like that can shoot and stretch and play like they're very rare to see. So I like watching premier players play in person.
Yeah, he should be. Again, it should be. Hopefully, it'll be a good crowd. 6:30 early game over at Colonial Life Arena. We'll continue to talk about that more in the 8:00 hour as college basketball really now starting to ramp up. And this one, a big one for South Carolina tonight. If you can get this win, certainly looks very, very good on the resume. 803-404-6100. Out to the Love Chevy phone lines we go. Gamecock Larry's phone cut off on him yesterday during his brag about being right for the bowl game. He's back this morning. New phone, hopefully, and ready to talk. What's on your mind, young man?
I don't have much to talk about. I just want to say I want to rile up these Bulldog fans. It's not Georgia playing Alabama too much as it is against the old man Saban playing Kirby Smart. And I'm going to tell all you Bulldog fans right now, I ain't going to predict no score right yet, but I'll call in Monday morning and predict my score. But I'm going to tell you right now, all you dog fans, I don't like you. Well, I don't like Georgia. I love you. I don't like Georgia. But Rich couldn't beat Saban, so they fired him. Smart can't beat Saban, so you dog fans, you're going to be howling and crying and whining till the morning. We got to get another coach. We got to get a coach. We got to do something. We got to get rid of the bus champ Smart and all of. We got to get somebody that can beat Saban. Let me tell you right now, Georgia fans, as long as Nick Saban is at Alabama, as long as Nick Saban is at Alabama, well, I can't find my radio. Lord have mercy. You will not, and nobody, including Dabo, all you Tiger fans, nobody will beat Alabama in the playoff games. And I'll talk to you all you want to the rest of this week. I'm going to talk trash. It's time for Gamecock Larry to change. My season's over. We've done good. The future seems bright. And so I'm on the roll Tide until Tuesday morning, and then I'm going to go back to being Gamecock. Well, I'm always Gamecock Larry, but I'm going to be a roll Tide. You will never beat Nick Saban.
Right.
And Alabama. Wow. Go Tide.
Roll. Roll Tide Larry this morning. Roll Tide Larry. Jen, from now on, when he calls the rest of the week, you put up Roll Tide Larry, not Gamecock Larry, on the board, so I know who it is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, boy.
Larry.
Don't want to be confused. Real quick, did you hear the stat that Heath Klein gave out? Just this was crazy. I did not realize this. This is a Heath Klein stat, so could credit the Kleinster for all of this. Can you name the last team that did not beat Alabama at some point for a national championship?
The last team that beat someone other than Alabama for a national championship? Right. Auburn? Wait, are you saying in the national championship game?
It was
or on the way to a national championship they have not faced and had to beat Alabama?
Correct.
Oh. Southern Cal?
Mm-mm. No, it was a little bit more. It was sooner than that. A little bit more recent than that.
Texas.
You're on the right line. 2013, it was Florida State. Florida State before the college football playoff, the last one. Florida State. Auburn beat Alabama in the regular season, went on to beat Missouri in the SEC championship game, and Florida State beat Auburn. That was the last time Alabama was in some way not affiliated with the national championship game in some way, shape, or form. Kind of crazy to think about. We will get out to our rotating quarterbacks, Perry Orth and Michael Skarnecki, get their thoughts on the bowl game and on the quarterback competition upcoming during the spring. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
We should just ask each of them the same questions and see who answers them better.
Just see who answers them.
We'll figure out a question, then we'll see who asks them better, and then see who answers them better.
I don't think I have a. I wonder if I can do this real quick here. How it'll look.
What, put both their pictures up?
Yeah, well, I was gonna try and do like a collage. Got that little collage thing that you can do on your phone. Let's see if I can.
There's pictures of both of them together.
Oh, is there?
Some, yeah.
See, yeah.
How about we put this picture up of the quarterback room in 2015 with Mitch and Nunez, Orth and Scarnecchia?
Yeah, you can do that. I might have a really good one though. Let me see if I can get this done in time. Oh, where's my little collage thing here? Here we go. Layout. Oh, I haven't used it in so long that. Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. All right. Let's see here.
There's this one of just their backs.
All right. Wait a minute. I think I got the one for you there. All right. I think I got the one. Hold on. I'm going. What do you got? Just their backs?
Well, that's the room. But yeah, there's one. Some just screenshot of a WLTX.
All right. Hold on. Oh, this is the kind of hard work we're known for. When Jen was saying she was working hard, she had no clue just how hard we're putting together this photo collage of Orth and Scarnecchia. All right, where am I going here? Let me see here. Is it brand? No, is it banners? What was it under? Do you remember, Patrick?
What?
Was it brand? Yeah, it is. It is. All right, how does this look? Let's see how it looks. I don't think it's going to be as big as I want. What do you think there? We got the form of both. We can break down the form. Scarnecchia is throwing kind of with the claw hand.
Yeah.
Orth open-handed.
One glove. I could never wear what Perry's wearing. Because I get bothered when it's uneven. Like if I had a shooting sleeve on one arm and not the other, or a glove on one hand and not the other, it would bother me.
All right, Perry and Michael are ready.
Second half of the Tuesday edition of the early game. Hope you were up and at 'em this morning. Weather a lot better. Not particularly warm, especially for a guy from Jacksonville and another one from I've already forgotten where Skarnecki is from, but he's a Florida kid too, I believe. I just have
Jacksonville.
Both you're from Jacksonville?
Oh yeah.
Both from Jacksonville.
Both from Look at this. Look at that. Look, there they are. Perry Orth, Michael Skarnecki. I have put up a lovely picture of you two, kind of side by side there. The throwing motions. Orth with the glove. Skarnecki without the glove. Michael, were you just never a glove guy, or Perry, did you just have one day it got too cold for you and you had to play with the glove?
You know, I actually stole the glove thing from Dylan Thompson. He used to wear a glove, and for whatever reason, Coach Spurrier, I guess his offense was a little bit different where he'd put us under center sometimes, and I like taking the snap under center with the glove on. For whatever reason, I don't know, maybe it was just a psyche thing, but I felt like I always got a good grip from under center, so I started wearing it spring ball, and then I just rolled with it.
There is a day I want to get both of you in to sit down and break down this picture. You guys can look at it later here on Twitter, because it's actually I actually am very proud of how quickly I put that picture together. You can go to my Twitter account at Will1L Gunner to check that out. It's definitely you guys nice forms there, and we can get into that. But let's talk bowl game and Skarnecki and Mike. I'll start with you, man, and then I'll go to Perry. But DeCarrion Joyner, a guy that we've talked a lot about as South Carolina needing to find a role for him. What was your take as you see him go out there for the first snap and then throw the long touchdown pass to Jaheim Bell, and then his performance overall?
Oh, I mean, for him, it was awesome, definitely. I mean, for the Gamecocks, everyone, it was awesome. I played with DeCarrion when he was a freshman, and then seeing him go out there and do what he did, it's awesome to see. He carried a lot of confidence out there when he was throwing the ball. He's an athlete, and they let him, as you can see by the stats, just rely on him in the pass game, but they utilized him in an efficient manner, throwing the ball and running the ball, and it paid off. But I love seeing him out there throwing the ball, super accurate, and he just carried a lot of confidence, and I think the team kind of rallied behind it.
Perry, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you'd worked with DeCarrion a little bit when he first got to Columbia, maybe done some of the QB camps with him. I believe, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd come in studio and spoke very highly of him. How have you seen his game evolve, being able to finally watch him get the majority of snaps at the quarterback position?
Yeah, it was pretty special. I mean, when I first saw him trot out there, I thought they were just trying to do a little wrinkle. So hats off to the staff of keeping that hidden. But like Michael just said, when you can play to your quarterback's strengths, you always want to build your offense around what your quarterback does well. And you got to give him credit. Coach Satterfield has taken a lot of heat this year, but he had a marvelous game plan, and it paid off. And speaking on DK, I mean, what an awesome day for him. He'll remember it the rest of his life, watching that video of him being emotional after the game, because Lord knows what he went through and what has gone through up to this point, in and out of the lineup, QB, receiver, running back, kick returner. He's done kind of everything and hasn't really found a home. And, after a performance like that, he's got to at least solidify an opportunity to be the guy next year. And it was a curveball from left field, but hats off again to the coaches for finding that and thinking of him. And man, he made the most of his opportunity. And you just you can't be more happy for the young man, regardless of if the Gamecocks won or not. The guy's been through quite a journey, and to see him be ready to play like he was, it was awesome.
So I guess what we've been discussing for years now is why have we not seen more of that? And I guess we'll start with you, Michael. Do you get the sense that it's just the fact that there hasn't been DeCarrion and Joyner throwing the ball in the offense completely took North Carolina by surprise? And if they had used a lot of him during the season, this might not have worked out this way? Or do you think that it was just kind of a mistake to not be using him all season long?
That's tough to say because, when you have athletes, and especially at the receiver position, I don't think we had a lot of athletes at the senior position that were not young. A lot of older guys who knew the offenses and knew how to play against the SEC and had that experience. And so DeCarrion has been moved around. I think looking at the coaches, we have good enough quarterbacks. We need this guy to get the ball at receiver position because we really don't have many other mature or older guys. And so I see where they're coming from, starting him at receiver, being the athlete he is. Is it a mistake? Hindsight 2020, it's easy to say, yeah, we probably could have started him earlier in the season, and maybe it would have been a different season, maybe won a couple more games. But it's hard to say. But DeCarrion, he's definitely now, if he comes back, he's going to have to be put up for a competition with the other guys. And I think he's going to have to get a fair shot for what he performed or how he performed in the bowl game. So, DeCarrion, he has the confidence. He can throw the ball. He's an athlete. But you can't look back at the earlier in the season and say, he should have started. You can only go forward now and be like, you know what, he needs to get a fair opportunity to start next season because of how he performed in that game.
Do you think that he should get a shot at being, when we say an open competition next year, at the start as the starter, or you think just no matter what, you find a way to integrate him in the offense? Because at the end of the day, nobody has an arm like Spencer Rattler. Almost nobody in the country does. So it's going to be a difficult competition. But do you think no matter what, you find a way to get DeCarrion Joyner involved?
I think so. He's too much of an athlete. Regardless if it's you put it in Wildcat positions or you put him again at slot receiver. This year, he definitely took a step forward in being a better receiver, catching the ball with stronger hands, running crisper routes. But you got to find a way to implement him. He's too much of an athlete on this team.
They are Michael Scarnecchia and Perry Orth joining us this morning. A little round table discussion instead of splitting them up. Let's kind of move on to a little bit of the offseason now. You get the bowl game, you get the win. Both of you can kind of speak to this because you've both been a part of positive and negative bowl games. When you win a game like this, Perry, I'll start with you. What does it do for players? I think as fans, as media, we go, oh, man, it's great momentum and everybody's fired up and with big expectations next year. Is it the same way in the locker room, or is it just kind of another game and now you get back into the rhythm of going to class, going to winter workouts, getting ready for spring ball? Or does it really impact the locker room from a momentum standpoint?
Well, I think it impacts the psyche of the players mentally, maybe not so much outwardly. You understand that especially for all the guys that are coming back, they know that they're like, okay, I'm ready to take the next step as a player, as a program, as a team. We know what it takes to get to that next level, and we know what it takes to win games, and we've won games by being an underdog. And so now let's do what we did last year, but just take it up a notch. And I can tell you right now, the kids are definitely thinking about it. The coaches are preaching it. Right now, they're just relaxing, taking time off before they head back to school and start winter workouts and start getting ready for spring ball. And it looks like everybody on the staff is returning. So you have year 2 in a system where now you know exactly what you're asked to do and how plays are asked to be run and how they're supposed to be executed. So now it's all about the individual accountability of taking that next step as your own athlete and saying, okay, this is what I did last year. Here are areas where I can improve, and here are areas where I can continue to grow in. And I'm excited for them. It is a great opportunity to take some time, relax, get bigger, stronger, faster, but start getting ready for spring ball. And then before you know it, guys, we've been through this before. It'll be July before you know it, and they'll be gearing up for camp. So they got to take each day serious, and I'm excited for them.
Michael, how can you go back? You were part of the team that had the big bowl victory over Michigan. The rally there in the fourth quarter, it was a new offensive coordinator in Brian McClendon. Everybody was really excited about the prospects. What can you remember about that time, that bowl victory, and what it produced going into the offseason and the following season?
Yeah, for for several things that victory did for us is one, that everyone was definitely excited going into the new season, because when you look back and review the games that you lost and you won, you're like, man, we could have easily flipped some of those games and had more victories. So it motivated the players to go out there, work harder during the offseason workouts, prepare and more in the film room. So when spring ball came, we just looked more as a cohesive unit out there. It also excites the new recruits coming in the spring, and the new recruits bring in more competition. So now you have people competing even harder in the offseason workouts because everyone's excited about where the program was just at and where they can take it. And so with the new recruits, this excitement from the bowl victory, it carries everyone with a new energy, and it carries everyone with a new sense of competition, because they know that, not everyone's role is solidified as a starter. And so everyone's got to compete even harder, and everyone wants to win 10, 11, 12 games. So, it's going to weed out some of those weak-minded guys, and it's going to also strengthen some people. But the offseason is definitely a time where people are going to go, especially after a bowl victory, where they're going to go and they're going to compete even harder and try and get more victories than what they had in the previous season.
You guys were both part of relatively deep quarterback rooms. Perry, you mentioned maybe the best time in South Carolina's quarterback history with the way Connor Shaw and Dylan Thompson kind of pushed each other, and the bleed over there from Connor to Dylan. Now you've got Spencer Rattler coming in. We just saw what DeCarrion Joyner did. You've got Braden Davis. This spring alone, you're going to have Davis, and you're going to have Colton Gauthier. What is, let's start, Perry, with you, the expectation potentially for just how this quarterback room plays out over the next 9 months, especially given what we now know about the transfer portal?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The springtime was always fun for me because it always gave me the opportunity to get reps to kind of prove myself. And so for some of these younger quarterbacks, especially the incoming freshmen and Colton, they're able to utilize the opportunities in spring ball to show that, hey, I'm capable of playing at this level, and I'm capable of being the guy here. Obviously you bring in Spencer Rattler, and you got Luke back and DK in the mix too. I mean, this room's pretty deep, and there's a lot of athletic kids and kids that can play and have proven they can play and win. And competition makes everybody better. My thing that I always took pride in, and Michael did as well, because we were in the same room together competing day in and day out. And we both wanted to be the guy, but we never let it affect the relationship between each other as people and then also as teammates, because everybody wants to be the guy. But you also have to understand you're on the same team as well. So if they can keep that at the forefront of their mind and go out and practice every day and compete their tails off, it's going to make everybody better, because the more I coach, the more I realize people look to the QB, whether you believe it or not. They look to him for leadership, for guidance, for playmaking ability during the game. And, now that we have a deep room, I got to believe that our staff is going to be looking at, who's going to make the plays when needed, and then who's going to be able to rally the entire team around them to keep this train moving forward.
Michael, you were again a part of kind of a deeper quarterback room. What can we expect to hear when we talk about players getting those reps during spring to try and improve and compete, whether it be for the actual starting job or for the backup job?
Spring ball, when you start out in spring ball, it's always going to be where the reps are going to be definitely distributed evenly throughout. Maybe a little more for the starter or who's the expected starter. But, your first week, maybe your first 2 weeks, these young guys are going to get a lot of opportunities to go out there and showcase what they can do. So they got to take the most, and obviously, trying to learn the playbook is going to be very important for a lot of the guys, especially the new ones coming in, how quickly they can learn it, go out there and know it when they're on the field. But the plays are going to be distributed evenly, and near the end of spring ball, when it's starting to get towards the game, you're kind of having more of a starter, or at least an expected person to be starting, and the reps are going to get less for the people who either weren't performing, or weren't ready, or however it looked. A lot of us are expecting Spencer to come in here and be the starter, And one thing I could say definitely for the young guys coming in, Tanner and Braden, and even other guys who are already there, like Colton, is not get discouraged if Spencer starts, because we live in this day and age where if you're not a starter your first or second year, you either need to transfer or you can consider your career not as successful as it could have been. But that's not how that's not how it should be. These guys have years to develop into the QBs that a lot of us expect them to become, and they shouldn't just get discouraged if Spencer starts, because he may only be here for 1 year. Maybe he's even here for 2 years, but they need to take those years and develop into the QBs that when he's gone, if he is the starter, that they'll take over and help this program succeed.
Guys, I feel like Steve Spurrier this morning, rotating quarterbacks in and out. I feel like I did a fantastic job, and you guys, as you always do, carried us to a victory. Proud to have you on this program, and congratulations. Nobody stepped on each other's toes. Perry, you were fantastic this morning. Skarnecchia, every bit as good. We're glad to have you as part of this program.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Take care. Perry Orth, Michael Skarnecchia joining us. We'll get them in studio where we can all stare at each other and maybe even enjoy some breakfast one morning here in the coming weeks. Give them more time to talk about their thoughts and their opinions, but enjoy hearing from both of them. A lot of good insights on that. We'll get that up on the podcast page if you missed it, and you'll be able to go back and listen to that. Patrick, I think we did very well with that.
We need more time.
We needed a lot more time, not enough time.
But you did make sure you get time in to compliment yourself on how well you did. So that was good. That was good. You got 5 seconds.
We're a quality
I had
run
more
program.
questions.
Hour 3 is next on the early game.
Home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game. WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia. A Cumulus media station.
It's fine. I'm the new CEO.
Then it's Grand Crew.
The comedy critics rave is this generation's friends.
I'm going to ask Alicia to marry me.
What? Seriously, dude? I've had almond milk in my fridge longer than you've been with Alicia.
American Auto and Grand.
You still have the air segment going?
See.
Apply now to 88909 right now to get started. That's apply now to 88909. Auto financing the easy way. Text apply now to 8890.
Hi, everybody. This is Woody.
Possibly. I hope so.
You do not want to miss this. Today only, you can get 3 rooms of carpet clean for do not want to miss this. Today only, you can get 3 rooms of carpet clean from Zero Res for only $109. That's right, 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $109. This offer only available until midnight tonight. So schedule your appointment now before it's too late. Use promo code SALE109 at zerorescolumbia.com or call 803-262-4020. No soap, no residue.
Rolling along on a Tuesday morning where we are all back in studio, Patrick. Feels good, right? Don't have to drive through the snow today. Feeling a lot better.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was kind of nice driving through the snow. I mean, it wasn't on the roads. The highways were clear. Every exit was miserable. I stopped at a rest stop and then a welcome center in North Carolina, and both of those were terrible. I got very wet stepping out of the car. And my socks were wet for the ride, so that was miserable.
Man,
But
that's no
the
fun.
road itself was dry, so it was actually kind of nice seeing all the snow-covered trees and the snow-covered medians and mountainsides. I actually didn't really have anything to complain about.
There you
And it
go.
wasn't sunny, so there was no tough reflections. Because driving in the snow, when the sun reflects off the snow,
Oh,
it's
blinding.
brutal. Yeah, but it was an overcast all day, so it's actually not bad.
But we are all back in studio this morning as Patrick is here. I am back. No fallen trees on the roadway preventing me from getting here. Jen, of course, toughed it out yesterday and walked here when her car broke down, which we were all very impressed with. Nothing like walking from Lexington all the way down to the studio. So good job, Jen. And glad you could drive in this morning. It was a lot more convenient. If you want to join us, 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. Cool Care Heating and Air text line, or on the Love Chevy phone lines is how you can do that. You can also hop on the Buford Lending live stream. Craig, Chuck, Hope, all jumping in this morning. I see it looks like they are already talking about, is it Cobra Kai? Cobra Kai, I guess, is on season 4 now. Is that right? Looks like
I guess so.
Looks like, yeah, the live stream is its own little area where you can jump in and weigh in. RL saying Joyner's best position seems to be quarterback. Craig asking questions about offensive line coach Greg Atkins. Then there's a discussion about the current television show 1883 that lends itself to Cobra Kai. As you can see, that live stream.
That lends itself to Cobra Kai.
Because I guess now they just got into talking television shows, guess, is just.
It lends itself to
Yeah.
Yellowstone.
Yeah, well, no, I guess it just, what I mean is, because, so all I'm saying is if you want to hop in on the live stream, it's a big community there, and you can, you don't just have to participate in the program. You can just weigh in however you see fit with whatever the discussion is. Chuck saying he loves Sam Elliott there, and he'd watch him on a soapbox. Craig weighing in, the Tim McGraw, really good too. So again, if you want to go join that Buford Lending live stream, that's how you can go. You can go to the YouTube page, the 107.5 The Game YouTube page. Click there. You can also go to our Facebook page as well and watch. And again, you're more than welcome to weigh in there. It's not always the sports discussion happening on the live stream. They tend to venture out into left field a little bit, which fits the motto of this program. 803-404-6100, though. That's how you can also weigh in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Big thank you to Michael Scarnecchia and Perry Orth for joining us there in the previous segment, as we got some insight from them. And Patrick, I do think, is the book now closed on 2021? You've got the quarterback competition coming up. You've got Spencer Rattler, and it does look like Marcus Satterfield, barring a change, I guess, by all accounts, the way I see it, Marcus Satterfield will be back next season. And I don't know how people necessarily feel about that. It feels like we're basing that off of a one-game performance, albeit a very good one-game performance. But I don't know if that's what you necessarily want to base your offensive coordinator off of, is one game and 13. But it does look like Satterfield will be back to work with Spencer Rattler. And I watched some of the interview with Rattler on GamecockCentral.com yesterday. You can go and check that out on their website. Spencer Rattler does seem very intrigued at playing in Marcus Satterfield's pro-style system with pro-style lingo, as he put it. The talk of how he's got to manipulate the huddle, manipulate the calls. Spencer Rattler does seem that's a big reason he came to South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, it'll help him. It'll make him more ready when he gets to the NFL, but as opposed to just kind of the signs on the sidelines or the signals coming in from the backup quarterbacks or whatever. It'll help him when he's got to learn the long, complicated play calls and say him in the huddle. But I think ultimately what I got out of that interview was just he was going where Stogner was going. I mean, Stogner clearly has a strong influence on him, and his dad does too. So I think we're lucky to have Austin Stogner be bought in right away, because he basically said, yeah, never went on campus anywhere. I did a virtual tour. Beamer sold me. I was already sold on Beamer himself. The campus didn't need to know much about that. And that's all it was. All I needed was the confirmation from Stogner, and I was in. So that's pretty cool. And I think maybe we make too much of the facilities. We thought we built this brand new awesome facility and everyone's going to immediately want to come to South Carolina. Spencer Rattler just kind of brushed it off. He's like, yeah, I knew the facilities were great. Facilities are great everywhere. Because that's where we're at college football now. It's like Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, South Carolina, Clemson. No matter where you go in big time college football where there's money, the facilities are going to be awesome. So that stuff might be a little bit overrated.
Do we gloss over Marcus Satterfield and how difficult his job could have been? I'm asking. I'm not telling people. I'm asking because of the quarterback situation. With you, I guess you prep for 9 months for Luke Doty to be your quarterback. I guess you scheme and you come up with ideas on what you want to do. Doty gets hurt in spring. You gotta pivot to. It looks like Zeb. I mean, the way it plays out is they really didn't think Jason Brown was ready. So it was like, hey, Zeb Nolan, hop on in here. You know the offense as well as anybody, and nothing against Zeb Nolan, but nobody would ever label him mobile or even close to Luke Doty. Nolan starts 4 games this year. Then you've also got Jason Brown gets thrown into the mix. DeCarrion Joyner does technically get the start in the bowl game. Zeb Nolan was out there at wide receiver, I guess, in the Wildcat package. But Patrick, do we gloss over and do people not give Marcus Satterfield a pass? I'm asking 803-404-6100. I agree with people who say the play calling was inconsistent. The in-game play calling drove me just as crazy as a lot of you. But I do wonder when we talk about issues with the offense, when you're rotating quarterbacks in the manner and the injuries that South Carolina had,
Yeah.
do we not give Satterfield enough of a pass?
Well, if that was the case, I don't know why there hasn't been a package for DeCarrion Joyner all season long.
Right.
Though.
That's a good point,
Like,
too.
if there's going to be constant change at the quarterback position, let's have at least, a dozen plays that we know we can go to no matter what. That'll take some pressure off of everybody. And I don't know if for the bowl game, I kind of wish this is why I wish we had more time with Perry and Michael, because I wanted to ask them kind of, did you notice anything different schematically? Was it the offensive line was finally in sync, and it just those extra couple weeks of practice, you think, finally let them get the hang of things? Were there different styles of runs that we haven't seen all year? Obviously, Jaheim Bell got the carry to start the game, and that's something we haven't seen since the spring game, really. But was it as simple as that, or was it just an example of, at the end of the day, South Carolina's offensive line was just better than North Carolina's defensive line, and everything they were doing was working? I really don't know what to think about that. Like, was that rushing performance something that we just unlocked and it's replicable going forward, or what? Because we thought that we had unlocked something with Trey Jones at the fullback and that counter action all day long against Florida that was just killing them, and then we didn't see it again next week. So yeah, I'm not sure if we give them a pass, if we take anything out of this bowl game other than South Carolina just had a really good day. But you're tied to a Satterfield for next year. So, I mean, if you're a Gamecock fan, you're just going to take the positive and say you'd rather end on a good note than not.
I think North Carolina's rush defense not very good. I think they're closer to Florida, and we know what South Carolina did against Florida than they are to being a solid run defense. But the bottom line is South Carolina had success. And now you get a quarterback who is supposed to be an elite level quarterback. You just mentioned it, the arm strength, what he can do. He is mobile. I don't think we would label him a dual threat quarterback, but he can make plays with his legs. He doesn't look to, I guess, is the point.
Yeah.
You're not.
But if you wanted to run keepers for him, you can do it.
Right.
He's a good enough athlete to do so.
But I wonder that. I wonder, look, there's a lot of people that's been very critical of Marcus Satterfield. I have been. I don't think that I've sugarcoated it. I've thought that there needed to be change. You are right. The running game in particular, Kevin Harris going for 163 yards, I believe, 167 yards on 31 carries. It did seem like the game plan as a whole made sense, was more consistent, that things built off of one another. We saw Amarion Brown, Patrick, 4 catches for 61 yards. I have a hard time believing that if you'd have said to me on Wednesday morning when we were making our picks, Josh Vann doesn't catch a pass in this game,
right?
That I don't think I picked 18 points, which was what was scored in the first quarter, let alone 18 throughout the game. It's kind of crazy how things played out. We'll see what happens. Nothing is set in stone. Certainly things could change. But as we sit here on January 4th, it does appear that Satterfield will be back as offensive coordinator. And I think, the question is how do Gamecock fans feel about that? Because as we talked about, you come off of the recruiting class, you land Rattler and Stogner, you win the bowl game, you get these guys back. Brad Johnson yesterday announcing he'll be back. Zach Pickens announcing he'll be back. We wait on Jordan Strawn and Josh Vann, really, I think, are the next two. Anybody else would be a surprise, right? Am I leaving anybody out? Kevin Harris has announced he's going to the NFL. I think Vann and Strawn are the only two others that South Carolina fans really are waiting on.
And I thought Jordan Strawn was a grad transfer and had to only play 1 year.
Who knows? Who knows? So the bottom line is, there's a lot of momentum. And Patrick on the live stream asked, "Do y'all think that Satterfield can keep this momentum going?" Yeah, I do think he can. I think we all should think he can. The question is, will he? Will he keep the momentum going? It'll be hard to tell. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on that. Again, other news yesterday, Caleb Williams, the highly thought of quarterback for Oklahoma, 21 touchdowns, 4 interceptions this past year for Lincoln Riley. Caleb Williams enters the transfer portal. Patrick, I'm assuming Caleb Williams is not afraid of any quarterback out there, right? Like I would assume that there's nobody out there that Caleb Williams says, "Oh, I can't beat him out of." He's already gone and beaten out a supposed Heisman.
I don't know. Would he go to Texas?
I don't think he would go to Texas, but I don't think he would be scared of Quinn Ewers or whoever else they're going to offer down there. He's got proven college production. But I did think it was interesting. Caleb Williams enters the transfer portal. Dylan Gabriel almost instantly is like, oh, I'm going to try and take his spot. That position's open.
Dylan Gabriel was looking at Ole Miss, right?
He was looking at Jeff Lebby. Jeff Lebby recruited him. Jeff Lebby recruited him to Central Florida, UCF. I'm going to get a nasty letter from them because they want to be called UCF. He was recruited by Jeff Lebby to UCF. He has a connection. So a lot of people actually thought he was going to go to Mississippi with Jeff Lebby. And then when it kind of opened up, he ended up committing, not signing, but committing to UCLA and then flipping yesterday to Oklahoma.
And when I read Caleb Williams' post on Twitter or Instagram or whatever it was, and he said Oklahoma will still remain an option, I thought that Oklahoma would be among the favorites, if not the favorite. As soon as Dylan Gabriel committed, at least I thought, okay, well, there's no shot Caleb Williams is coming back then.
Right.
Like, he's definitely transferring. Is that where you're at? Because Dylan Gabriel's not going to
beat out
grad
Caleb Williams.
transfer to a school with Caleb Williams there. I mean, that doesn't make any sense for him. I mean, he should be waiting. Any transfer quarterback should be waiting until all the decisions are made to see where the dominoes fall.
I mean, the time here's the interesting thing about you look at the time frame, and I don't think Caleb Williams is very concerned about the competition he's got to face. He thinks he can just go, and he probably also looks at Southern Cal and goes, or if he's not already looking, he probably looks at Southern Cal. It's like, there's my fallback option. I already know who the head coach is. I know the system.
Mm-hmm.
He started me over Rattler this past year. Southern Cal's quarterback situation at the moment is still very much up in the air. They don't have a proven guy either, whether it's Jackson Dart or I forget who beat out Slovis initially. They've rotated. It feels like they've rotated young quarterbacks for years now. But the bottom line is Southern Cal's still up in the air if that's where he wants to go. I would assume he also looks and thinks I can go back and beat out Dylan Gabriel. I guess the thing is, this is Oklahoma. This is their coaching staff going, all right, well, we don't know what Caleb Williams is going to do.
We don't want to get stuck.
We can't be stuck with nothing. Yeah. So,
I don't even know what the early favorites would be. I mean, LSU was one of his finalists. Does Brian Kelly make him want to go back to LSU? Is that something that
does he really want to go and compete with the guy who did what was it, the guns up, or what was that thing that they did on the weird, funky video?
It wasn't it was what Brian Kelly did while the other kids stood there. While the kids stood there and looked normal. I mean, Notre Dame, I don't know. Notre Dame, Tommy Rees is a big name. They don't have a quarterback. Like, there are some big school options, but yeah, I just don't know where he would go. That's a top flight championship contender that doesn't already have a quarterback. It seems like it's inevitable that he's going to go to a place with an established quarterback and basically just kick someone out.
The rumors yesterday seemed to insinuate that it will either be Georgia or Southern Cal. And now, whether you want to believe internet rumors or not, it's up to you. Georgia seemed to be in the mix because Georgia could put together some kind of name, image, likeness package that nobody else could do. So,
what can Georgia do that no
I have
one else
zero
can
clue,
do?
Patrick.
No one else do?
No clue. No clue. Well, I guess assuming we're talking about teams that could go and win a national
why doesn't he just go to
championship. I don't know. Good question. 803-404-6100. Jen, let's get out to those Love Chevy phone lines. Scott wants to weigh in. We've been talking college football playoffs as well this morning. Scott's up next. Scott, what do you think about the college football playoff? Expand or decrease or keep the same?
I mean, if you look at it, they did. If you expand it, are you going to have more beatdowns like you had in this Final Four? I mean, do we really want to watch that? Obviously, nobody liked the Cincinnati-Alabama game. They certainly didn't like watching Michigan get beat down. So, I mean, if you expand it, you just get more of the same. You're extending it by a few weeks.
Well, but Scott, did you like watching? Did you watch much of the Wake Forest Rutgers game?
Yeah. You know what? At the end of the day, I actually did because I like Shiano. But we're all gonna watch what we like to watch. But at the end of the day, it's just interesting. And I mean, at the end of the day, was it huge for South Carolina to go win in Charlotte? Absolutely it was. And if you don't think that's going to catapult them in the next season in a good light, then, obviously y'all seem pretty excited right now and pretty happy. So, I mean, I know we don't like as many bowls as is out there, but at the end of the day, we all tend to watch because college football is awesome, but it is what it is. And also just FYI, that stat you threw out about Florida State is incorrect. It'd be 2019 LSU winning. There was
No,
Alabama.
LSU
They
beat
played
Alabama in the
that
season.
year.
Yeah, they beat them during the season, but I mean,
No,
That
that's the
was
point.
Alabama
That was the point of the stat.
But I mean, Alabama got beat in 2013 during the season too. So I mean,
No. You're missing. You didn't hear the
The
stat.
team that won the national championship had to go through Alabama
At
every year
some point,
since.
yeah.
That's. I mean, you got a point there. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I just missed that. I apologize. But you know, I will say this: I'd like to see it expanded because I do want to see those Cincinnati's of the world get an opportunity because I do think they were a good team and they obviously showed up a lot more than Michigan showed up. It's just, you know, where does it end, and then are you going to have a lot more beatdowns?
Well, I think if you're not for expanding here's I guess I think if you're not for expanding the playoff, then let's just do away with all the bowls because some of them are beatdowns. I mean, Texas Tech hammered Mississippi State, and if just do away with all of them. Have one game, just one game, singular, one game, just the national championship game, because that's all we're in for. Because people are watching that are not Mississippi State Texas fans, and thank you for the phone call, Scott. But if you're not in for that, like I guess that's the point. People are saying, well, there'll be more beatdowns. Well, look across the board. How many people got into Minnesota, West Virginia, an 18-6 thriller, an absolute thriller? Oklahoma, Oregon was supposed to be a really good game, right, Patrick? On paper,
Supposed to be.
Oklahoma. That game also, it ended up being 15 points because Oregon scored a bunch late.
You could have gotten a Utah-Ohio State game as a playoff game.
Yeah. I mean, it was a great game, but then make it a playoff game. Again, that Oklahoma-Oregon game, it was 30-3 at halftime. Oregon scored and came back and made it somewhat competitive. It was only in a 15-point loss, but that's supposed to be a really good game between two teams that were playoff contenders. How many people watch? If you're not for expanding the playoff, then I don't want to hear about other bowl games because that tells me you're not really interested in Oklahoma, Oregon. That was a beating, but at least in a playoff, there's some meaning behind it. Maybe we don't get Kayvon Thibodeau opting out.
Yeah.
Who knows with the coaching situation? That's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down there. If you say,
Do
well,
the coaches stick around?
Yeah, do the coaches stick around for the playoff?
Adds a layer of intrigue, though. As fans, we would like it.
I guess
Something
that's
to
my
talk about.
When people say, well, no, you can't expand because you'll get more beatings. Okay, not that I disagree with that. I just it's not like we're getting a ton of thrill. Maryland beat Virginia Tech 54-10.
Yeah.
So I
did.
There's and look,
Maryland's calling themselves wide receiver U now.
Oh, of course they are. Why wouldn't they? So I understand where people are going with that, but I also say, like, just because Oklahoma State Notre Dame becomes a playoff game doesn't mean it naturally turns into well, it doesn't mean it's going to turn into a beating somewhere along the line. 803-404-6100. We'll get back out to the phone lines when we return. Talking about Marcus Satterfield, how does it make you feel? We got a couple people lined up there, and we'll get to those when we return. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
This is South Carolina head women's basketball coach Dawn Staley, and you're listening to the home of the Gamecocks, WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
So yeah, Saturday, Patrick, you weren't in town, were you? You were gone. Yeah, Patrick was out of town. Saturday, I was in flip-flops, shorts. It was lovely. It was 80 degrees. This morning I wake up 37 or 35. I don't know, whatever the car was telling me, whatever it is, the South Carolina weather, and you know how you have to handle it. But one thing you better be able to handle it is your heating and air unit. That's right. That's where AAA Heating and Air comes into play. You can give them a phone call this morning and get them out for an inspection. Costs just $59. 803-677-1500. Roy and Dana Finley, family-run company, and they want to make sure they treat you like a family member. That's what sets them apart. The customer service, the willingness to make sure that everything is working properly. So get them out there today. 803-677-1500. Get them out for an inspection. $59 is all it costs. And then if you're worried something's going to be wrong, it's going to cost a whole bunch of money for a whole new heating and air unit, don't worry about it. AAA Heating and Air, they're going to help you. They're going to try and help save money on that budget there by offering you a $1,500 rebate to buy back your old unit then. No money down, 0% financing for those that qualify, and the best part, a 15-year parts and labor warranty on that brand new unit. That is treating you like a family member. That's why I trust AAA Heating and Air. Give them a phone call today, 803-677-1500. That's AAA Heating and Air. Give them a call. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Yeah, he didn't say anything during that call at all. Charlotte?
Wednesday, yeah, and had a bunch of food. I like it. Then he was like, yeah, we got a point there. That's tough. That's really cold.
Just picking up trash.
Well, really Josh. I also feel like it got cold.
Hope doesn't understand people being negative. Hope, as soon as the trick play didn't work out during the bowl game, was tweeting that we lost. That we lost because of a stupid trick play. I saw that, Hope.
Did you guys know I'm cool enough to have my own shirt?
Yes.
Being a gin, is that what it's? I can kind of see it. Evil, thank you. Oh, thank you, Evil. Who made that?
That's when I left. So yeah, that was my shirt when I left B106. I was there about 14 years. And my nickname was Evil Jen. I don't know why. And so they did a surprise party for me. And everybody was wearing these shirts. Isn't that funny?
So Josh just had one laying around?
He wasn't even here at that time. But his uncle who did the photos had made this shirt. And he gave him one yesterday. So he was wearing that and he wants to put it in the studio, which I don't know if that's so great. But yeah, so they were, and he did a little collage with the song. Thank you for being friends or whatever. It was pretty cool. But yeah, still not sure why I got the nickname. But there you go. It's pretty awful. But just to see your face on Josh's
T-shirt,
chest,
yeah.
scary.
Little weird.
Right, I took that HR training.
Right? I know, right? Yep.
I feel like you said that looked directly at me, like this was my chance to completely mess it up. And
I like to, set the ball and give you an opportunity to spike it or just let it go.
Oh, I could have.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you think? I guess it's some for this week or today, but how pictures are pretty good. He's not necessarily a professional photographer, but if I paid him a little bit of money, paid him some money to come out and do some like pictures of the kids and all that, I can send the Walgreens for like those not collages, but you know what I'm talking about? Those like canvas things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. That's why I kind of think about, maybe do some out on the dock or something, or just kind of like standing photos or something. I might get you to call it, let it go, but it'll be close to like Deco, it's not as cold.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Are we scouting?
what about walking off the two?
I don't know, but the Washington football team released a date for when the new name's coming out. 2-2-2-2. That's when we'll get a name. We're going to be the Washington Commanders.
Eight zero three 6100. That's how you can join us this morning. Talking a little bit about the college football playoff, obviously, about Marcus Satterfield, certainly, as that's generated a little bit of discussion. And then obviously we'll get back into a little bit of the basketball game tonight. Jabari Smith, potential number one pick. Actually, Patrick, during the top of the hour, during the break after we talked about it, I just kind of glanced at a few other mock drafts to see if where they had him. It appears Jabari Smith, the power forward for Auburn that'll be here tonight, comes in averaging 16 points a game. It looks like he's actually now a consensus number one pick across most of the
mock drafts.
Most of the mock drafts that
It
I was.
will definitely fluctuate throughout the rest of the season, but I mean, he's definitely the template for what a number one pick has been traditionally in the NBA for the last 10 years. I don't know. He's just one of the unicorns. That's kind of the new term of the guys that can shoot, stretch, and block shots and are 6'10", 7 feet tall and can pretty much play anywhere on the floor. And he's that to a T. He's a freak. He was top 10 player coming in, 5-star, all everything. So if you're thinking about going out tonight, I mean, that would probably put me over the edge in my decision-making process. He's going to be special. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, 6'10", about 220 pounds, freshman, averaging 16.7 rebounds a game, shoots 44% from the floor. He had 16 points and 4 rebounds in Auburn's thumping of number 16 LSU on last Wednesday, 70-55. So we'll get back into that because that is a top 10 game. Number 9 Auburn rolling into Colonial Life Arena tonight. They are a 10-point favorite in that game over the Gamecocks, who will be making their first appearance. Patrick, I forgot about that. You pointed it out. The game last week against South Carolina State canceled. So tonight will be almost the first game in almost 2 full weeks. Army was on a Wednesday as well.
It'll be this will also be second year in a row that Auburn will have a top 5 pick, because they had Isaac Okoro. Or no, that was 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago. Sharif Cooper was last year. And then Chuma Okiki was 3 years ago. So, I mean, they're just pumping out NBA talent right now.
Yeah, no, the way Bruce Pearl has started to recruit and build that program, obviously the Final Four run now 2 years ago, I believe, if I'm thinking correctly. That was the year that Texas Tech won it all, or Virginia won it all. I think they beat Texas Tech. My years run together with the COVID and how the Final Fours have played out. But, you know, the bottom line is tonight is a great opportunity for South Carolina, but this is a program that Bruce Pearl has been able to really build up. They're a national power now. They come in, they play really strong defense. In years past, I'm not saying it'll be the case tonight, but in years past, this is the kind of team that typically gives South Carolina a lot of problems, a lot of length and quickness at the guards. Length. I go back to those Tennessee teams that Bruce Pearl built. And I know Frank Martin wasn't at South Carolina, but the teams that Bruce Pearl built at Tennessee that were long and had quickness at the guard position, and that really for a long time gave South Carolina a bunch of problems. And we'll see tonight. Cousinard will be back. Yeah, really, according to Frank yesterday, they should have their whole roster tonight as they get ready for Auburn. And one guy that's got to play better is Keyshawn Bryant. He's been a little bit too much hit or miss this year, and I love him in the six man spot. He's got to bring the energy, but he's got to make smart decisions
Well,
tonight.
who covers Jabari Smith? I mean, who's going to be tasked with that all day long?
If he's
he's such a problem. I mean, is it going to be AJ Wilson?
Yes, if he's healthy. If Wilson is completely healthy, again, Martin saying Wilson will be back. But yes, if AJ Wilson is completely healthy, like 100%, that's who I go with. A little bit bigger guy, but I think you can also.
He's just such a problem. I mean, because he's going to be able to elevate over AJ Wilson. AJ Wilson's like what 6'7" or 6'9", 6'7"? What is
6'7"ish.
6'7". So when you're talking about like almost a 7-footer, I mean, when he elevates his shoot, you just can't block that. He's a problem. But I guess AJ Wilson's the answer. You can't really cover him with the center because they'll just stretch you out too far.
No, they're not going to be able to put Woodley or Levesque on him, Josh Gray, guys like that, Manat. They're not going to be able to go with that. You're going to have to go with one of your forwards, whether it's Wilson, whether it's Keyshawn Bryant when he's in the ball game. You're just going to have to take your chances, and you're going to have to hope for some help side defense. When he goes down into the post and tries to post up a little bit, that's where you're going to have to go with this particular team. But again, Auburn comes in, they shoot the ball fairly well from the field. This is a good Auburn team and one that'll be in the discussion to make a trip to the Final Four when we get to March Madness. So a big test tonight. And again, the Vegas spread on this game, South Carolina a 10-point underdog tonight at home. That game will be 6:30. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game. South Carolina will have that one. And then this coming weekend, the Gamecocks will get Vanderbilt in Nashville. So early start. And by the way, that's followed up with another top 20 team at the current moment next week on the road at Tennessee. So the early portion of the SEC schedule, kind of difficult here with two top 20 teams in Auburn and then a Tennessee team, again, that's been playing fairly well of late.
It's a big opportunity. But I'm looking at Auburn's schedule right now. I mean, they haven't beaten a ranked team. LSU was their first ranked opponent, it looks like, this year. Or maybe not ranked now or was ranked when they played. And I mean, who'd they fall to? They lost to UConn in Atlantis, it looks like.
That was a great game. If you didn't see it, there was
that.
shots down the stretch. That was during Thanksgiving week, and I just happened to be home. It was kind of an afternoon game, and it was a really fun one to watch. But they ended up losing that game in double overtime. UConn is gotten better. Dana Hurley's done a really good job up there with that program. So it's a program, again, that and when I'm talking about Auburn, who under Bruce Pearl has done a very good job kind of rebuilding and has done it with some really good athletes, as you just mentioned, with some high draft picks.
Yeah, I looked at the list. They've had 4 players drafted. They had 2 drafted in the second round last year, JT Thor and Sharif Cooper. And then the year before that was Isaac Okoro. Isaac Okoro was drafted number 5 overall. So yeah, I mean they've got some big time talent. And these guys they're coming to Auburn with pedigree. It's not like he's just developing these great players. He's recruiting at an extremely high level right now. Bruce Pearl is.
The experienced player of the bunch, Walker Kessler, the former North Carolina player, also will be a part of that rotation tonight on the interior that South Carolina will have to slow down. He's averaging 23 minutes and 10 points per game. So again, it's a tall task tonight. We'll see how it goes. 6:30 for the Gamecocks as they take on Auburn at Colonial Life Arena. And the good news is you have everybody back. I'm trying to think back very quickly. This is the first major test for South Carolina. Florida State has not turned out. It's a good win. It's a good win to beat Florida State on the road in Rock Hill, but Florida State's kind of going through some early season bumps and bruises. This is the largest test South Carolina will have had to date. And I think really, not necessarily if South Carolina wins, Patrick, but if they're competitive, it gives you an idea of what this team can do in SEC play. If they come out and Auburn puts it on them, boy, it really takes away from some of the momentum South Carolina was able to build during non-conference play.
Yeah, it was the same story kind of 2 weekends in a row with Georgetown and Florida State. Classic programs that are usually really good, but they haven't been the same. Florida State.
Well, Florida State this year. Florida State this year.
Florida State, Georgetown the past kind of decade, if not more. But then Clemson would have been a challenge going to Little John, but I mean that was just a shell of a South Carolina team. There's nothing you can possibly read into that with 7 guys out, 6-7 guys out, or whatever it was. So in that sense, this is really the first true challenge. And It's a challenge to the fans too. I hope it's a good environment. I don't want to turn on the TV and see just empty lower level seats for a top 10 matchup and a number 1 pick coming in.
803-404-6100. Brad weighs in and says, yeah, the 10-point underdog in basketball is huge. He says, I do like Martin, but the outcome of this will give Martin apologist a boost or jump ship. Again, there are no such thing as moral victories. I'm not trying to say, oh, yeah, if South Carolina just loses by single digits, that's a good thing. You need to win the basketball game because it would be incredible for the resume. It would be fantastic for what you're trying to do to get into the NCAA tournament. And South Carolina, coming out of non-conference play, they're in position. They're going to get plenty of games here over the coming weeks against quality competition that can build the resume, that can put them in the big dance. But you've got to win the games. Just playing them close doesn't do you any particular good. But again, tonight, great opportunity at home, 6:30 for Frank Martin and his ball club there. Again, Jermaine Cousinard back. Jacoby Wright's been playing really good at the point guard position, though. I like Jacoby Wright. I like going with him at the point guard position. I think you've gotten contributions off the bench of late from Chico Carter. Again, Keyshawn Bryant. They've got some big guys that can go in and bang around. South Carolina's not going to go in as the smaller team in the post. The big guys just have to contribute and stay out of foul trouble.
Well, or they got to get in foul trouble and you just go to the next guy. I mean, everybody just has to play well. That's kind of the thing, though, is like if Wilton Levick goes in there and gets in foul trouble early, don't give him easy buckets. Okay, fine. Josh Gray, get in there and use your fouls. You don't take them home with you. This is the first opportunity they've had where it's not an absolute catastrophe if your big man goes down early with foul trouble. Because that's how it was. Chris Silva, oh, man, he's got 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes, and now we've got to sit down, and we have really no post presence to speak of. It was always a big issue, and now you've solved that problem because you have depth.
You do have depth, and I kind of agree with what you're saying, but Leveque has played really.
He's the best of the bunch.
He's played really good this year. He cannot.
Before the season, I don't think we thought that there was going to be as clear that he was the best of the bunch, but still, you got the bodies.
Leveque in the 10 games he's played is averaging 10 points and 6 rebounds, and I think for what he does, that's very solid. He's shooting 70% from the floor. I don't think you can have him get in foul trouble. Now, the other big bodies you just mentioned, Josh Gray, you got 5 fouls, buddy.
Get after him.
You got
just
5
make him
fouls.
feel it.
You got
make him feel each foul.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can test everything around the rim. Trevon Minott, Taquan, and I really do like Taquan Woodley. I think that's a guy who's got a chance to contribute a lot throughout his career and maybe a lot sooner than later. But yeah, the other guys, especially Josh Gray, because of his height. Yeah. You go in and you make sure Auburn doesn't get anything around the rim. That's too easy. 803-404-6100. We will wrap up the Tuesday morning episode of the early game here on 107.5 The Game. Oh, I can't continue to thank the great folks at Love Chevrolet enough. Of course, they took care of me when I needed a Chevrolet Tahoe a few years ago, and yesterday, it came in handy. Couldn't get to the studio because I wasn't going to drive the Tahoe over a fallen tree that was hanging on or it was still hanging on a power line. So just took the Tahoe back home. Then there was no power at the house. That's okay. It came equipped with a bunch of features that I need. The Tahoe did. And one of those was being able to plug in the little box we use into the power outlet and did the first hour of the program in the Love Chevy Tahoe. That's how great Love Chevrolet is. They're helping contribute to the radio program by keeping me on air. You can go visit them, though, so they can keep you discovering new roads. That's right. The Love Chevrolet Silverado in stock. You can go check out the great deals. You won't suffer sticker shock if you go out there. All the add-ons that other dealerships are tacking on right now to take advantage of customers in a time of high demand and low supply. At Love Chevrolet, it's business as usual, and business as usual has been very good. Over 60 years of business as usual. When you can stay in business that long, you know that they do things the correct way. Go find out for yourself. Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. You can visit them on the web as always, lovechevy.com. Chevrolet.com. Whether it's the $1,000 low price guarantee, the unmatched selection of vehicles, or that phenomenal sales staff that makes sure they answer every question and make you feel comfortable with one of the more important purchases in your life, you can't go wrong by visiting Love Chevrolet. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com. Get out to Love Chevrolet and find new roads. Next big step is getting back into the gym, working out.
Not this week though.
I'd like to.
It's the biggest gym week of the year.
That's
if you
true.
want,
That's a good
if you want to avoid crowds at the gym, just go for a walk or something. I'm making my resolution to not work out this year.
Attaboy, yeah, that's. Let's see how the old YouTube page is going there. 941 subscribers. Hope you hear that. 900. We are 59 subscribers away from 1,000.
I didn't win the Powerball last night.
Powerball still going on?
It's 575 million now.
It's getting up there. How many tickets?
Yeah, I just bought one. I don't buy more than one.
Yeah, I might buy.
If it's my destiny to win, I'll win on the one card.
I might buy two just because I usually play the numbers that I always play. Well, all right, so it's 575, but here's what you got to do. You're a South Carolina resident, right?
Yeah.
All right, you're going to pay 56% taxes at the end of the day. Like you pay, I think you pay 40. I've done this. You pay something like 40% right off the bat. And then at the end of the year, when you file your taxes, there's an extra 14. So I've always said, if you win, just take out 56% taxes. So I would assume you would take the 409.
Take home $200 million.
No, yeah, roughly. No, a little bit more than that actually. But let's see, times 20. Oh, excuse me. You pay 44% of tax. You pay 44% taxes. You take home 56% of whatever you win. But then you got to say, all right, 409 million is the cash value. So if you take the cash value, take the lump sum, you would win 56% of that. You would take home your take home at the end of the day after everything's paid, 229,208,000.
I can work with that.
Yeah, you can figure a way to
take a year off.
You can buy a jet, maybe another house.
Take a year off.
Yeah, I think it's about time to play the Powerball. I hadn't paid it. What's Mega Millions at?
I think if I actually did win, I think what I would do is take a year off, travel, and then I would figure out how to be an English teacher in Italy. That would be the goal. Or another beautiful European country, and I'd just be a teacher there. teaching English.
So yeah, you're right. The next strongest Tuesday again.
It's what, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mega Millions is 244, but the cash option is 172.5.
I'm just gonna play until somebody wins it.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do.
Once it gets down to 20 million, it's not worth the investment anymore.
That's what I always say. So Mega Millions is 244, cash option 172.5, meaning after your 56% take home, you make off of Mega Millions 96 million, which still is nothing to sneeze at.
No, I mean I can make it work.
Yeah, I mean, try to find a way. Final few minutes of the Tuesday program. Bill Gunner, Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen coming to you here from the beautiful studios on Gervais Street. We'll be back at it first thing in the morning. We'll have a lot to talk about. We're continuing talking about college football. Obviously, so much happening here in the weeks after, but certainly we will also talk about South Carolina's game tonight. Again, 6:30 over at Colonial Life Arena against Auburn. And it's an opportunity, Patrick. I mean, it's I don't want to say it's like the bowl game and that you're playing with house money, but it is a great opportunity tonight for Frank Martin. I do think South Carolina, if I've watched them, as I've watched them in this non-conference portion, the win at a neutral site over Florida State, especially being down big, surprised me. It caught me off guard because the way I saw this team early was a team that was going to be pretty good at home. They seemed to really fit well in that arena, even despite less than stellar crowds early on. They seemed to shoot better, defend better. You saw that against Army, putting up 105 points in their last time out. On the road, we saw that when they went to the neutral site, Nashville. They struggled a little bit. The comeback against Florida State caught me off guard. I'm with you. You can't buy anything into the Clemson game because of the COVID option.
Florida State was a pseudo home game, though.
But it was a different arena.
It was a different arena.
I mean, technically, if you go
momentum wise,
yeah. But I mean, again, if you go by, I guess, distance, Princeton in Asheville and Western Kentucky were essentially home games as well when you kind of look at it that way. But
and if you just go by crowd numbers, you've played a couple games at Colonial Life Arena that are barely home games.
True.
So.
But that arena, that particular arena, they seem to be playing well in. And I do think they jump up and bite somebody that we don't expect at some point this year at Colonial Life Arena. Tonight would be an excellent opportunity. It would be their 10th win of the season, and obviously it would move them to 1-0 in SEC play. So, again, a lot there that we'll get into tomorrow. Other action tonight. It's actually a pretty good night of college basketball across the board when you look at the schedule. I mentioned Kentucky and LSU, Patrick, as now we do start to transition. LSU will have a football game tonight. They'll play Kansas State. But for with one major college football game, our attention kind of turns toward NFL, the playoffs, but college basketball as well. And tonight, not a bad little schedule if you want to get into it here. Again, Kentucky and LSU, that game will be at 7:00 on ESPN. Kentucky enters the game ranked 16th. LSU is 21st. Also, Oklahoma and Baylor tonight. Baylor's turning into a really good basketball program under Scott Drew.
Yep, they are absolutely, and they're the kind of team that I would like to pull for. I mean, they're ferocious on defense. They're athletic. They're long. They are really fun to watch. I think they're going to be a perennial contender at this point.
Georgia Tech at Duke tonight. Duke, number 2 in the country. They finally come off of the COVID pause. Should have most of their players back from what I've read. Georgia Tech will visit them 9:00 on the ACC network. Kansas up to number 6 in the polls. They will take on Oklahoma State and Mike Boynton tonight. That game will be in Stillwater on ESPN2. Boynton, obviously, with the big year last year with Cade Cunningham, Patrick. This year, 7-4 overall with losses to Oakland, to Wichita State, Xavier, and they just lost not too long ago, I believe, to Houston. And there's no shame in losing to Houston. Houston's a very good team.
I mean,
as well.
It's cyclical though. When you have the number 1 player in the country, that's your year to really push the chips in and go for it. So it's not a surprise that they're taking a little bit of a step back. But I mean, Still a good program.
You still have to you have to kind of bounce back. That loss to Houston actually occurred back on Saturday, December 18th. They had a game against Southern Cal that was canceled and a game against Texas Tech on New Year's Day that was postponed. So this will be the first game for Oklahoma State tonight and Mike Boynton since basically what was it mid December roughly.
We got a text from John that said, "Wait, so you're saying Clemson game didn't count?"
It counts
Basically,
in the
our
stands.
mind,
Well,
yes,
no, I
but
mean,
but in March, they're not. It's not going to count that heavily against South Carolina, right?
It's hard to say with how they'll do it. Again, the loss to Clemson when Sindarius Thornwell was out that year, Thornwell's in the Final Four run, it was clear that the committee didn't take that into account that much. That they didn't take a couple games into account. When Thornwell was out, South Carolina lost a couple games, and they still ended up getting a 7 seed that year. Most people had them projected as a 10 seed, and the only explanation for that was when Sindarius Thornwell was suspended, I think for about 5 or 6 games that year. The committee just said, no, they didn't have their best player.
Well, and that game, Clemson game, they didn't have 6 or 7 players, and I think they were down 3 starters.
Yeah,
so you can't imagine that it's going to be really held against them at all.
Yeah, there are other games they'll have a chance to improve upon and win. It does count. It counts. We're not saying that,
but not in our hearts.
Previous history kind of tells us the NCAA committee sometimes more than willing to overlook that. Big thank you to Jen Jensen. She produced a lovely program. If you want to listen to that Michael Scarnecchia, Perry Orth interview, go to the 107.5 The Game page, click on the podcast tab. Patrick, excellent day. We'll do it again tomorrow. Take care.
All right, everybody.
Thank you, Anthony. I myself thought it was a very good program.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for sticking with us for 3 hours.
That's right.
DC, thank you for sticking with us for 3 hours as well. See y'all tomorrow.
Bill, thank you for sticking with us for 3 hours.